It's time for the #1 show on Google Plus Week. Tonight, meet Louisiana caricaturist and illustrator Rodney Pike. A Scottish council feels the heat for banning a 9-year-old food blogger. Controversy over Google Plus games. Who's still playing? Plus the roundtable with our panel of experts from around the world. This is Google Plus Week. And welcome. My first guest tonight is Mr. Rodney Pike, who's an amazing artist, very prominent on Google Plus, and I want to welcome him here tonight. Rodney, tell us first of all where you are, because I was joking with you before about your accent. You are absolutely a phenomenal talent. So tell us where you are and how you got into into art as a career.
Well, I live in Louisiana. A little town called Gonzales. It's kind of between Baton Rouge, the capital, and New Orleans. Most people know where New Orleans is. Gosh, art is my background. Art has been a part of my life as long as I can remember. I started drawing before I can remember. I mean, my oldest memories were from sketching from Mad Magazine, and I grew up wanting to be an illustrator like Norman Rockwell. I wanted to pattern my life after Norman Rockwell. I just loved his work, and being in Louisiana, not the art capital of the world, and it was virtually impossible to make a living as an artist. And when I got out of high school, and I tried for a couple of years, and I showed and I sold some work, mostly oil painting back then. And I got discouraged, and I joined the military, and spent my time in the military and got out and kind of got caught up in life and marriage and having kids and all that kind of stuff, and laid the art down for nearly 30 years. Never touched it. Totally lost the drive that I had as a young man, and the passion to be an artist. And just recently, that passion was rekindled, totally by accident. I was doing some Photoshop contests. I entered in some Photoshop contests. I had seen some online, and I had a bootleg copy of Photoshop at the time, a very old one, Photoshop 7, I think is what I was working with 2 years ago when I started. And but I realized right away that Photoshop was where it was the medium that really I was born to work in, and because I was never really happy with any other medium I worked in, and I tried just about all of them, everything but stone, really. And so digital art really caught my attention, and I started practicing, doing photo manipulations for contests, and I eventually got into. I recognized Sebastian Kruger's work. I don't know if you're familiar with him, a brilliant caricature artist, and I was fascinated by his work. And then shortly after that, I joined Facebook, and I found Jason Seiler on Facebook. He's a big political satire artist, and I was really intrigued with these characters. And all I had at the time was an old PC and a mouse, and but I wanted to do something like that, and you can't paint with a mouse, so that's why I was doing the photo manipulation. And so I decided to try a photo manipulated caricature, and back then nobody had really fooled with that. There's a lot of people doing it now, but it really caught on, and it did well. And I realized right away that was it. That was what I wanted to do. Whether I made money at it or not, I loved it. and I never intended to make money at it. I did it because it was fun, and I did it for these contests. And about only about 6 months into working with Photoshop, and only about a couple of months playing with caricatures, I was contacted by FHM magazine. They offered me a 5-piece commission, and it totally blew me away. I couldn't believe that somebody was wanting to pay for what I love to do, and and uh, they called me back for more, and I've done many illustrations for FHM, Tennis Magazine, uh, the Village Voice. I've done some work for some movie producers, um, and a lot of other clients. Uh, there are a couple of big ones in the making that I can't mention yet because they're kind of secretive. But I tell you, it's amazing how fast it's grown, and I'm a very fortunate man to have gotten a second chance at my dream, which was to be an illustrator, and I'm doing it now. That's what I do. I'm an illustrator, and I'm not where I want to be yet, but I've come a long, long way, and I'm living my dream. In the early stages of it, but I'm living it. I'm having a ball, loving it, and Google Plus, and I'd have to mention this. Since I joined Google Plus, things exploded.
Rodney, let me stop you real quick because I'm having a technical glitch going live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the recorded show that most people will watch is still running, but we're not broadcasting on YouTube live right now. But all this is preserved. So give me 1 sec. I'm going to rejoin, and just everyone hang tight, and I'll be right back. We're having a little glitch with the it's logged me out now. Apparently there's a rare Hangout issue, and so I'm gonna have to rejoin the Hangout because it won't let me shoot it live. So I'll be back in just a moment here, and we'll continue with our discussion with Mr. Rodney Pike. So
I'm getting sound breaking up a lot.
Okay, Rodney, let me ask you this. I'm gonna try. I'm getting an echo.
That's your player is working.
Streak, you're the one who's working.
Okay, we got it fixed. I apologize.
Okay, we got it.
All right, Harold, can you turn your player volume down? I'm getting echo from you. And then let me go back to Rodney and just ask you. I'm curious. If you could just, and then we'll go to Oleg. But tell me, what's your actual process? I know you're not drawing with paint. I mean, you're doing it in Photoshop, and I guess you refer to it as photo illustration. So let's say you're doing Colin Powell or George Washington or some figure. What actually do you start with, and explain what the process is that you arrive at this amazing final product?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've been asked that many times, and it's a hard question to answer, though, because I don't have much of a process. And what process I do have, or the procedures that I do go through are changing continually because I'm learning. Everything that I do is an experiment. But to answer your question specifically, I really don't have a process, and I don't for a reason. If I have a concept and I see something in my head, try to picture something in my head, it seldom works out the way I want it to. So I've kind of got into this habit of just taking. I decide who I'm going to work with, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it, and I simply bring the face into Photoshop, and I start working on the face. And I don't know any of the rules of caricature. I've never had any training or anything, so my exaggeration is kind of instinctive. I do whatever seems right. And as far as the rest of it, how it develops, I kind of let it lead me. I don't have any set procedures. Uh, I have certain ways that I apply effects and things like that, but I just kind of go at it. I just start working, and it kind of starts coming to me, and it develops into whatever it develops into. I've had some manipulations that I've done that are very labor intensive, but they started off with just a face, and the, one thing led to another, and it just led me along. And I know that that's not a real good answer, but it's the truth, and it worked for me.
So do they all start out as photographs and then they're manipulated in Photoshop? Is that
Yeah.
the process?
Right. They're all photo manipulations, although about the work that I'm doing now, about the last 15 to 20% of the work is digital painting, and I am now studying digital painting now that I have a Cintiq, a Wacom, and a pen and tablet, and so I can paint, with pressure sensitive and all that. And, so I'm studying, digital painting now, and I'm going to start to fuse the two more and see what happens. If it leads me to doing digital painting, totally digital painting, that's fine. I'm just kind of going to let it develop like I have everything else. I've never really made plans. I just kind of let things go, and they've kind of led me here, on their own. So it's worked so far, so I'm just going to continue.
That's absolutely, it's working. It's fantastic. So let me bring Oleg in. Oleg, can you turn your screen share off for us? And if you have any questions, you were fantastic and invited Rodney and coaxed him onto the show tonight, and promised him he'd survive. And go ahead, shoot, Oleg.
Thank you,
welcome
Dan.
back from Disneyland.
Yes, thank you. Rodney, thank you very much for coming to the show. I know we've kind of talked back and forth, and you couldn't do it before, so I really appreciate that you were able to make the time tonight, even though you were not feeling that hot. But so appreciate.
I appreciate the invitation. I think a lot of your show.
Based on your comments, it's very clear that you don't have any technique, you don't have any process, which leads to only one conclusion: is just you're an extremely talented individual. Basically, that's what it is, and something you can't learn, obviously, something that just some people have and some people don't. And so you pretty much described already the process, so a lot of questions I had you already answered. But I was wondering, well, my first question was, since I was showing Bill Clinton, was that done right before he got out of the office, and that's why he didn't get reelected, or?
Wait, which one are you talking about?
Bill Clinton?
Oh, Clinton. No, I thought that was pretty flattering.
It was excellent. No, it's actually excellent. But looking at how you do stuff, you basically, I mean, it's not just exaggeration. It seems like there's a lot more to it. And I think, me personally, the extreme part of the talent comes in with being able to still, even though you are changing things dramatically, you still can easily, at least I can easily tell, and I think most people can easily tell, who this person is, even though it's so seriously exaggerated in various parts.
Yeah.
And I think it just, I mean, it definitely looks amazing. I mean, all your stuff I've seen is just phenomenal looking.
Okay.
And I was wondering, have you thought about possibly extending this to video? Although I realize it's a hell of a lot more work to try to do the same thing with videos, but it would be such an effect to actually see something like this in the video form.
Yeah, I've got a lot of people in Great Britain that are interested. I've had a lot of offers, and a lot of people that have contacted me, and they either didn't have the financial backing or the technology to do that. And I am actually in contact with a company that I really can't mention at the moment, that are looking into something like that, taking these caricatures that are absurdly exaggerated in a lot of cases, but make them breathe and make them talk and make them blink,
Right.
and make it almost or as close to being believable as possible, and so yeah, it's we're interested in it. I'm interested in it. That would be a great thing to see him come to life. But I've been offered an opportunity to work with some 3D artists, a team of 3D artists, cinematographers, a bunch of people, and I would certainly jump on the opportunity. It may be the hardest job I ever did. It might be a major pain, but I'd be an idiot to pass it up.
It'd be very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. And
Have you?
there are a lot of people in Great Britain that are big on. I don't know if you're familiar with Spitting Images, Spitting Image, the show that was on back in the '80s. When I was in the military, I was in Scotland, and I used to watch the show regularly.
Mhm.
And they were caricatured, kind of rubber-like
They're
figures.
Muppets, right?
Oh, when they had Reagan and all of that.
Yeah.
no, that was very. Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah, they
talking about.
did Reagan and the Queen and all.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So
Phil Collins had a video
bring
with those
that
characters in it.
concept back, but make it more real. And the thing about caricatures, you mentioned something earlier about capturing, the essence of somebody, their personality or whatever. And the ultimate compliment that any caricature artist can get is that, man, that caricature looks more like him than the picture does, the source picture. And if you can, when I do a caricature of a person, I don't just look at one picture. I do a search, and I find multiple pictures, and I put them all over my two monitors at different angles, different expressions, to where I can see their personality. And hopefully, while I'm working on it, that comes out. You pull some of that out, and you get some of that personality.
Speaking of multiple pictures, have you considered doing any 3D modeling work with your approach, but in 3D?
Photoshop is so intense, and there's so much to learn. Just working in Photoshop and doing what I do, that, gosh, that's enough for, learning for the rest of my life. I don't know if I want to, if it leads me there, yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not planning on it. I don't have any intentions of going that direction. I haven't.
Have you thought about possibly taking the stuff you create and then creating like toys or those kind of characters out of it?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people approach me on that. I had one. There's a portrait I did of a man who is so much in love with his daughter that he has commissioned some 300 portraits of her since she was born.
Wow.
All caricatures. And I did one for him, and she looks like a little doll, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And I had somebody approach me about that. Actually, was interested in using her as a character, and I said, "Well, she's not. She's somebody's child. I couldn't authorize that." So.
Let me go to Alan real quick because he's got to dash off and then he's coming back. But Alan, I think you had a question for Rodney. Go ahead, and then we'll go to some comments from YouTube.
Yeah, Rodney, I'd like to thank you for joining. I'm kind of curious, how do you see the artist community on Google Plus? How are you part of it? How do you see that it shapes, it works? How do they all work together? And what kind of differences or conflicts or friction do you see between the various members of the community?
Well, I don't see as much friction between different areas and different types of art on Google Plus as you would in some other places. I'm not going to mention anybody, but I mean, there are differences, and there are a lot of different artists and some brilliant artists on Google Plus, and from photography to digital painting to photo manipulation to singers and I mean, I'm a lover of the arts. So art, anything art I'm into, and I don't draw lines, and I don't see any differences there. And I've started an art circle that hopefully I'm trying to build with those kind of people that are like-minded, that believe in the arts, and they believe that photography is art. They're not just photographers; they're artists first. Their medium is a camera, and
Can you name a couple of people, Rodney, who you specifically prefer?
as far as
Photographers.
photographers,
Or other artists even.
well, if I go mentioning too many of them, the other one's going to get mad at me because I'm friends with a lot of.
No, just some. We're not talking about.
Okay, well,
You,
Mike Shaw, Patrick DeFucia, I believe. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Let's see. Of course, Trey Ratcliffe is a freaking genius. And but there are some others like Jay Patel blows me away. His wife is good too. I mean, she does some brilliant work, and I didn't even know her wife was on Google Plus. Gosh, there's so many. I can't, and I apologize for the people that I can't think of it right off the top of my head. There are so many that I admire for their artistic ability. There's one up and coming, Boris Gale. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
the New York black and white guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boris is his first name. Starts with
Yeah,
G.
the Russian guy. Yeah, he's very
He's
good.
an up and coming artist, and Boris is not the most technical person in the world, but he's got the eye. He's got an eye for it, and he's producing some really cool stuff. And I like to see that too. I like to see people that are starting off and just that have the raw talent. They haven't developed the technical ability yet necessarily, but they've got that raw talent. They've got the eye for it. And there are lots of other artists on Google Plus. Mei Fong Robinson,
Yeah, she's very good too.
brilliant digital painter.
Yeah.
Gosh, there are so many. Jason DeGraff is on Google Plus, although he doesn't participate a whole lot. He's, in my opinion, the finest hyperrealist in the world. Jason DeGraff. Have to Google him sometime. His
Okay.
work will blow you away. We got to get him to participate more on Google Plus, though. He's a Facebooker.
Okay,
That's
wait,
it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One final question before
Alan?
I go. It's two parts to a final question before I go. Is there something about Google Plus that you think is particularly conducive to the art community? And if so, what is it? And I guess the kind of follow-up to that is, what would you like to see most from Google to do for Google Plus to help you as an artist specifically, the community in general? What do you want to see? Where would you like to see Google Plus evolve to for you?
Yeah. And your first part, I'm sorry, I lost track.
Is there something about Google Plus now that you think is particularly conducive to artists?
That's hard to say. All I can say is this, is that it's evident that, like, coming from Facebook, I was at Facebook, and I came over to Google. I'm still at Facebook. I've got 10,000 friends there, and I appreciate every one of them. I would never leave. But very few of them are here. Now, I expected that when I joined Google Plus, everybody would flood from there to Google, from Facebook to Google Plus, and that's not what happened. It's a different class of people, I think. They look at things a little bit different. There are more people that appreciate art. There are more people that appreciate discussion and technology and all these things. And a lot of people say Facebook is a place where you comment, and Google Plus is a place where you have discussion. And I think that is the difference. That type of person, and I'm not sure why that happened or how that happened, but it seems to be the case, and it's been incredible for me. Google Plus, I believe in social media and business, specifically my own business. It's been very good to me, promoting my business through social media, and I've only been fooling with social media like a year and a half. And but Google Plus is incredible. I mean, 90% of my income right now is coming directly through Google Plus connections. You know, so it's just it's
That's
crazy.
great.
That's amazing.
But, you know, as far as what I want to see down the line, you know, we were discussing this in another hangout a couple days ago, and people were talking about maybe Google getting more involved in the hangout, the hangouts. I mean, not the hurls, the hangouts in real life. I went to the first New York hangout, and it was unbelievable. You know, if you haven't done it, if you ever get a chance, if you have to save the money up, save the money up. It's a wonderful experience to be able to meet the people that you get so intimately close with here on Hangouts. It's surprising how well you get to know them, and you realize that once you meet them face to face, that you already knew them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a surprise. So I would like to see Google Plus get more involved in the hurls, maybe with the promotion and providing some of the maybe some facilities and stuff like that for concerts and that kind of thing. But I'm sure that's down the line. I'm sure that Google Plus right now has plenty on their plate, and they're growing at a rate that's, I'm sure, plenty fast enough for them right now. They don't need anything new on their plate now. So, but I think they're doing a great job. I think the difference here is that Google Plus listens to you. When I went to the Google office in New York, I was so impressed with the people that I talked to because they listened. They wanted to hear what I had to say. They were truly interested in what I had to say.
Yeah.
And Vic, how do you say it?
Good daughter. Mm-hmm.
The good daughter.
Dropped in the hangout I was in a couple of weeks ago. Just that's impressive. That's impressive. When a man, a 2 million circle, big executive like that takes out the time to drop in on a regular little hangout that nobody big in there, just plain old people, So
Absolutely.
There's no other place like that. They don't, that you have that personal interaction, even with the big guys.
Yeah. Rodney, speaking of Google Plus and stuff, do you have any specific suggestions or your own habits of how you like to do things on Google Plus? In other words, when you post, what kind of stuff you post, how much you post, who do you circle typically? Do you have any, just for people who are looking for that kind of information coming from somebody of your stature?
That's hard to say. I do as much as I possibly can. I'm an extremely busy person because I have irons, and a whole lot of irons and a whole lot of fires. I've got 276 profiles on the internet now. That's how spread out I am. I'm all over the place. They're all portfolios and gallery sites and social media sites.
This is good.
I'm sorry.
No, Dan playing around.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a quick question, Rodney. We got something from George Cozy in the Netherlands, and also from Guam, Jason Salas, who's watching us but had to step out, but he's coming back. He mentioned the spitting image puppets, and I was in London in the late '80s when that was on. And it was very controversial at the time, but I definitely see an influence there in your work, and it's fantastic. It was Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister, and of course that was just made for a caricature, and it was just and Reagan, it was just some older folks who lend themselves to that kind of art. George Cozy's asking, does Rodney let the face tell him what to do, or is character or other information the guiding element? In other words, do you how much is just the pictures, and how much of your final product is influenced by what you may know about the person?
Yeah.
And is it easier when you're dealing with a stranger or someone you know when you're doing this kind of work?
That's a really good question. I I think the closer I am to a person, the harder it is for me, really, because I've tried to do myself and I can't do it. I've tried to do my family members, I can't do it. But give me a politician and I can do it. So it definitely, people I don't know, famous people, and as far as the makeup, of the physical appearance of somebody versus their personality, I try to mix them, and I would think it's about 60% physical looks, but really, honestly, I I try to I try to believe anyhow that I put about 40% emphasis on the personality of the person. It's vitally important to know that person, to see them when they're laughing, when they're frowning, when they're raising their eyebrows, the different expressions that they have, and the more you know about a person, I think the better chance you have of coming out with a caricature that you might get that compliment that, hey man, that actually looks more like him than the picture you.
Well, I think what you do, it kind of captures the persona more than just the, like, Ross Perot has big ears, or
Right.
or Bill Clinton looks like W.C. Fields. You have the persona that's kind of embellished in there, and that really kind of makes it work even more. So I think you do a great job of doing that.
I want to throw it to Sarik for a question, but one quick, how long does it take you to do one of these? What's the quickest and what's the longest? Like, just time span. I mean, is it 20
Well,
minutes or is it like four weeks? I mean,
Mr. Bean, 2 hours. That's fun time. Uh,
So she's already funny.
Caricatures, anywhere from my minimum now is I spend a minimum of 2 days on a piece, anywhere from 2 days to a week and a half on some of the more complex ones. When I first started, I was cranking them out left and right in 2 hours. Well, you can see if you really look at close at the old stuff. I think I've improved a little bit with time, but it's because I really slow down and I put the work into it, and I pay it close attention to detail, which that's what I've kind of known for, is my detail work.
I got two more questions for you, Rodney. Number one is, since you're talking about knowing characters and stuff, have you done yourself?
I've tried, yes, many times I've tried. I've tried self-portraits when I was painting,
Mm-hmm.
serious self-portraits. I look goofy. I thought maybe it would be easier with caricatures since I look goofy. Well, it just didn't work. I cannot do it. In fact, I had Russ Cook caricature me so that I could see how somebody else would take this mug and exaggerate it.
Yeah.
Well, Russ Cook is one of a kind, and he just like folded my head in half, and it still looks like me, But so that didn't help me any at all.
So maybe nobody can do caricature on you then. And my last question is, speaking of making money on the deal, if people wanted to get a caricature made by you of one of their portraits or whatever, do you do that kind of stuff, that kind of private work for somebody on the request or not?
I do on a limited basis, and with the understanding that commission work comes first, But the one that that you saw, the pirate guy, that was a personal commission.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I do accept personal commissions.
And so how do people go through your website, or how do people initiate the process?
Just email me at my email is rodneypike@cox.net, and it's on my website, rodneypike.com. All my information is there. They just email me, and I'll explain to them what I require, because I do require extremely high resolution images, because I only want to turn out the best, and I'll turn a job down before I'll accept a poor quality image, for it. So to answer your question, I definitely do. I've done dozens of personal portraits, and they're fun.
Are there any
The
other?
reason I'm asking is because we went to Disneyland just last week, and my son, they have these people that do your caricatures on the fly,
Yeah.
and my son was horribly disappointed because it doesn't look anything like me, and
Yeah.
it didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, street characters or party caricatures. Some of them, there are some good ones out there, but there's not a whole lot. Most of them, you don't get much other than a funny picture, of somebody, and it may look a little bit like you.
And then is it if you can't say what the cost is okay, but I was just wondering what roughly would be the cost if somebody wanted to do something like this.
Well, I prefer that people contact me on that.
Okay.
Because I don't reveal my pricing on
Yeah, no problem.
magazine work and all. I do give a substantial discount on personal work though. The same size image for a magazine would be about double.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay, I know Sariq has a question, but I stole his first question. So I think he's had a few moments to gather his thoughts and come up with another question. And Sariq, you want to?
Yeah. Rodney, it's great to meet you. I mean,
Me too.
initially when I joined Google Plus, I used to circle every known artist, every known photographer in here. And then over a period of time, I just got tired of too many photographs and I was losing track. So I found out that I never circled you and I just did. But having said that, I think because of the resharing, and I have seen many of your caricatures, and I regret that I haven't circled you before. But one thing I really see different from you as well as from other people I know, actually one person did a caricature of mine. So is that you have a lot of detail. It's the level of detail is amazing. If you look at the General Bean or any one of these, I mean, usually I had this concept, I mean, I could be wrong, that caricatures usually doesn't have to have that kind of detail.
Right.
Now, each one of yours, it looks like it's so detailed. I mean, is it like a, perfectionist thing, or is it like?
Well, sort of. I'm a realist. Basically, I like realism. I like surrealism at the same time. I like distortion, taking reality and distorting it, and it's really fun distorting reality and then trying to infuse some believability back into that distorted reality. So it's a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I actually.
I'm just wondering why so much detail? Because maybe it was my mistake. I assumed that caricatures generally wouldn't have.
Well, I have been. I like detail. It appears that the people that like my work like to see that detail. So I've tried to build on it and improve upon it. And I've actually developed some techniques that I've recorded into actions that I use on my images. And I'm still in the process of experimenting and perfecting those that will take an image. And some of I've got some animated GIFs in on my website. If you simply search WIP for work in progress, they'll show that where right at the end, the last step, everything just pops. That's when I add my kind of process that I'm not willing to give away just yet. Eventually, I will. I'll give those actions away. I'll let people have access to them. But for right now, the way that I enhance, and I've been experimenting with enlarging images, enhancing, and actually ending up with an image that had more detail than what I started with, and it's 3 times the size. And that's the kind of experiments I've done with these actions. And it's because I blend a lot of stuff, recovering, enhancing detail, and creating detail that's not there.
It's
And
very
they're-
striking. I have to add, it's very striking. You know, the moment I saw few of your work, you know, I was like, so much depth, you know, so much detail. It's actually nice. I mean, as I said, it's probably my assumption that was wrong. Let me ask you this: has one of your works ever reached the What's Hot list?
No, never,
Okay.
never. The only thing that ever made What's Hot list that I posted was Mickey Mouse meeting his end in a mousetrap.
Oh,
That was it. No, I've never made the What's Hot. I've got a lot of people that follow me and love what I do, and I'm very uh, humbled and honored by that, and appreciative of every one of them. You know, they're the ones that have kind of got me here and on the road to building a successful business. You know.
you're about to hit 100,000 followers, right?
Well, did you say 800,000?
100,000.
No. Yeah, I'm getting close to 100,000, but you know, I was just recently added to the suggested user list, which kind of helped a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you know, it's you know, people ask me about that. You know, what's more meaningful? What means more? You getting 6,000 people a day that are pushing a button that Google says push this button, and they just do it, and they don't know why, and they don't know that they're even following me necessarily. You know, and I appreciate those 10 or 12 that are following me during a day, or maybe a couple hundred or whatever.
10 or 12,000 or a couple of hundred? I'm just kidding.
What's that, a day?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm getting 6 to 10,000 followers a day right now, but
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's actually a very interesting question. Close to 100,000 followers, and you're saying that the actual engagement you get on Google Plus is from a very few number of people, or you actually remember the kind of people who are actually engaging with you? How does it work? I'm just trying to understand. I mean,
I engage with as many people as my little noggin can handle. You know, my brain can juggle, you know, because I believe every single person is important. You know, and I try to interact with everybody. I'm absolutely 100% out there. My personal information, my phone number, anybody can contact me in any way from anywhere in the world, and they often do.
So,
And
so Rodney, you have your notifications set to anybody, like it's public?
yes, totally.
Wow.
And that's everywhere. It's not just here. You know,
Oh,
my Skype, my email, my phone number, everything's there. So I have nothing to hide, and I love people, and I appreciate people that appreciate what I do, and I'm certainly going to make myself available to them, no
ever
matter
tried
how much work it may, you know, get, because it increases the work a little bit. You know, I get a little bit of email every day.
you ever tried anything on the Hangouts itself? You know, like some of the artists here, they try to do.
Yeah.
No.
I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to start something soon. I'm going to start opening up Hangouts to some of my work that I'm doing. I just haven't decided how I'm going to be able to do it on a regular basis for people that, if I announce it, they're depending on me. Can I make sure I come through for them? You know, so I want to make sure I'm careful the way I put it together, and that I have the time and I have the material for them to join in and watch. You know, and talk, chat, whatever. Yeah.
Just for the budding artists out there, I mean, you said you use Photoshop a lot. Is it? I mean, I've seen Cliff Roth use tablet kind of. I don't know, but it's I don't even know what it's called, but he sketches with an electronic.
He uses a Cintiq just like mine, 21-inch Cintiq.
So that's what you use as well.
Yeah, and you know, he's amazing the amount of work that he cranks out in a Hangout.
Yeah.
He may do 6-7 portraits in one Hangout.
He joins us quite often just to hang out, just like that, and he randomly picks up somebody and does a caricature.
Right. Yeah. We traded characters. There's one of him in my portfolio. him standing on the Brooklyn Bridge because we met in New York.
Wow.
That was the first time I'd ever. I had never hung out with Cliff. I hadn't even seen. Initially, I wasn't into Hangouts. I hadn't even seen him on one of his videos, and we met face to face for the first time. And he's like that tall, but great guy, super nice guy, really genuine. You know, like just about everybody out here. You know.
All right. Are there any other questions for Rodney Pike, the one of the amazingly talented artists here on Google Plus, from Anthony or any of you guys? Got anything? All right. Well, Rodney, I really appreciate you. Hank, you're welcome to.
One more question.
Go ahead, Oleg.
Sorry. Rodney, do you do anything with regular art at all, or is all of your stuff exaggerated, caricature stuff?
No, I do some serious stuff. I don't always publish it, but I do serious stuff from time to time. And it kind of depends on the mood, and every artist is that way. You kind of paint, you want to paint and draw what you're feeling at the time, and if you're feeling down and you're feeling dark, you may just come up with something kind of dark.
Excellent.
and serious, So yeah, I do that stuff. It's good therapy. You're going through some difficult times. I draw ugly things.
Yeah, if you got the talent. Yeah, it's good therapy for people who have the talent. Anyway, it's a real pleasure. I have to run, but it's a pleasure to meet with you and talk to you. And huge fan.
Pleasure is mine. I really appreciate y'all inviting me. I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodney. We appreciate it, and thank you, Oleg, for inviting him. This has been awesome. We always like interviewing people who are more talented than we are, and you obviously fit that criteria. So now we want to see. At some point, you need to do an outrageous, really ridiculous caricature of Oleg for us. That will become our new bug. We'll put it up on the screen up there instead of the Google Plus Week logo. We'll put it up there every time so we can.
It's already is that
I'll have to do that sometime. I'm gonna have to run, you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice meeting all
Thank
of
you very
Nice
much.
talking to you.
Thank you, Rodney, for joining us. We appreciate it. It was awesome, and we look forward to seeing your next portraits. So
Thanks a lot.
that was great. Real Google Plus art celebrity on here, and that was awesome. And so the next thing I want to talk about is this amazing 9-year-old blogger in Scotland. And so I have invited Leah Davies, who is in England and a little bit closer to the action there, to talk about this, and any of you other folks who want to join us. This was, I guess, became a sort of a meme on the internet, right? This little girl, 9 years old, she's taking pictures every day of her school dinner. So my first question, Leah, what's the difference? Is that the equivalent of an American school lunch?
Yes.
It's the noon meal, right? They just call it
Yes.
dinner. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
And then, so this girl takes a picture every day of her school dinner, and comments on it and says how many hairs were in there. It's normally 0, but occasionally there were a couple. And then she comments on the flavor, comments on how healthy it might have been. And then she invited other people to send pictures of their school lunches or dinners. And then she was also raising money for charity, for this wonderful charity called Mary's Meals, which raises, they actually buy lunches or dinners for school kids in the poorest countries in the world, like Malawi and Liberia. And I lived in Liberia, so I know there's a need there for sure. And the charity, they have 2 agenda items. A, they want to feed kids who can't afford to eat food, and B, they want to do it only in an educational setting as sort of a bribe to get the kids to go to school, to hopefully better their future. I mean, I think it's an ingenious, great way, to help people. So she's now up. I just checked, and as of this taping here, they're up to 54,000 pounds, which is enough to feed about over 5,000 children for a year. So that's amazing. And she was in the single digits earlier today, but this story blew up. So Leah, what are your thoughts on this? This is amazing on so many different levels. because they banned her camera. And then, what are your thoughts on this? Do tell.
Yeah, yeah, it is amazing. It seemed a lot like a knee-jerk reaction, which I notice a lot with the government. I think she got a lot of help with her publicity for it from Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver's popular in the States now, isn't he?
Yeah, I guess he's been popular. He became especially prominent over the quote unquote pink slime controversy. When in a show, I don't know if it was in the UK or here, but he went on this crusade about the quote unquote pink slime, and his earlier claim to fame was his movement to improve school nutrition in general. That kids weren't eating well in school. So that's kind of when we first heard about him, and he really became to prominence over this lean textured beef product that was put in hamburger that we didn't know about and wasn't labeled for decades apparently, and he brought that to prominence. So, but yeah, he's famous, and I guess he tweeted a congratulatory note when she was only at like 100,000 views on her blog, and in like 48 hours it's gone up to over 3 million. If you look at her blog, it's on Blogspot. It's called Never Seconds. So her actual blog is oh gosh, I think it's Never Seconds, like I don't eat seconds for the meal, neverseconds.blogspot.com, and that'll take you right there. So the council that banned her from having a camera, Leah, is this an elected council? How does that work? And how do they control the schools?
You know, I'm not sure about that. I'm American expat living here myself, and the schools are a mystery to me. I've got 3 in school. They normally ban mobile phones, but if she was bringing a camera, I don't see what the problem would have been.
It's interesting. Margie, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you were following this today. We were both posting away like crazy on this. In the end, kids are going to eat because of this charity thing, so it's definitely a win for everybody except this council. But I kind of feel, don't you feel for the lunch ladies who were freaking out and apparently in tears? I kind of understand why they did it, and they didn't expect it to become like one of the top 10 world news stories. Can you imagine? You know, what are your thoughts, Margie?
Well, you mentioned there was a council for the school. Is that like the school board?
It's actually, I think it's like a city council for the area.
Council got involved in it?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering because usually in schools there's a certain person that actually decides the menu, you know, for the month for the cafeteria. So I was wondering if it's different in the UK.
Well, in some schools they have caterers. They outsource the catering, and other schools they do their own catering.
Okay. I looked at the blog last night. I was about to fall asleep and I saw Dan post about this kid, and I was like, "What? Food? Is he hungry? What's going on?" And it was just really amazing to see all these beautiful photos of all these other lunches from around the world. I was getting jealous. Started thinking about when I was in elementary school. I'm like, I never had food like that. And then when I saw this girl's lunches, what's her name? Martha? I'm mistaken. Was it Martha?
It's Martha Payne, yes, in Scotland. Martha Payne.
I saw Martha's lunches, and I was thinking, wow, that's really sad. And then on one of her posts, she had made some remark to say, you know, my daddy doesn't understand why I come home hungry. And I was just blown away by that. I'm like, well, he should if he's seeing these pictures. Because, you know, it's really not a nutritional meal. And I can understand that the school was embarrassed because that's what they were given. Maybe they were saving money. I don't know. I noticed on a lot of the posts, she talked about fruit. I don't know if y'all caught that, but unless they ate, like, all their food, they didn't get any fruit. And I was like...
I caught that, too. And it's like, what? Like, I could understand if, like, they had some, like, dessert item. And they didn't give you, you know, your dessert until you eat all your, you know, the main course. But you got to eat your hot dog before you can get fruit. That's kind of backwards, isn't it?
It was just crazy. I'm like, oh. But that's why I was wondering if, you know, maybe it was a budget issue with the schools, or and I mean I don't know if it's called a city, county. What is?
I think the fruit is I think it's funded by some sort of a government grant. So I don't understand why they wouldn't have been giving the children the fruit.
Yeah, she had mentioned at some point because of her blog that things changed and they were allowed to have fruit and like the salad bar or something, and certain desserts, you know, all was available now, but before her blog, you know, it wasn't available.
Yeah.
It's amazing that a 9-year-old could do so much to, you know, impact, you know, her own little small, you know, microcosm world.
Yeah, as well as the rest of the world.
Yeah, as I'm a substitute teacher here at the Malad Elementary School down here, and so I get to eat in the cafeteria and sometimes monitor its food there. We have a salad bar, and the food is basically mass produced and stuff like this. It's not, so it's really hard when you're feeding all those kids to get some really gourmet meal. And so the majority of kids in the high school go out for lunch, but they're not allowed to do that in the middle school and the elementary school.
As a you know, part-time teacher, what do you think about this, Harold? Have you seen the pictures of the meals? Obviously, she's a 9-year-old, so they're not going to eat as much as, you know, a 17-year-old. But for those of you who are parents of a kid that age, do you think that the food's, I mean, does it look like a normal portion for a 9-year-old? It seems like a couple of days she said I could barely finish the potato. You know, it was such a big potato, and to us we could eat like a potato no problem. You know, obviously. Any thoughts on that? I mean, they're not starving these kids, right?
Yeah, I saw the pictures of her food, and it didn't look anywhere as nice as the food that we get here up in Malad Middle School here. What a lot of kids do is we have a little salad bar, and what's really nice about the salad bar, you have all the vegetables and all the stuff, and you can kind of pick out what you want. So that's what a majority of the ladies and girls eat off the salad bar, because it's about the healthiest thing there.
Let me ask you, Harold, how would you handle this? Let's be specific here. Let's say you had a kid. I guess you do 9 through 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what if you had a 9th grader who was in this exact situation, Harold? She's taking a picture every day of her lunch, and she's critiquing it fairly. You know, there was a hair in it. I'm not going to eat the hair, or it was delicious or whatever. And then all of a sudden, this blog blows up, and the BBC and ABC News are covering it, and she's getting 100,000 hits a day. And if she critiques something, she sends the whole kitchen staff into tears. So realistically, if you think about at the school you work at, how would you deal with that? Because that is an interesting situation, and they kind of went into a panic and, you know, made a dumb decision that was quickly reversed. But how would you deal with that, Harold? What do you think would happen in the school you're at in a situation like that? Would they just deal with it, or would they tell the kid to leave the camera at home, or what?
Well, the first thing, the way it works in an authority in the schools here is basically the principal is the #1 person who runs everything in the school, and there's only one person above him and that's the superintendent of the school. So if something happens like that, immediately the principal makes a decision at that school, and it stands. And then if there's any problems, the superintendent makes the final decision. So if all these teachers are upset in something like that, it has to go before the school board.
Okay, awesome. Vanessa Howell is here, popping in. You're with Google. Welcome. I think is this the first time we've hung out?
I think it is, yeah.
Awesome. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're in your playground. You're at Google, so we're thank you for letting us do this little show here. What are your thoughts? I know you were posting on this today, and you were talking about this. This is a really interesting story on so many levels. The charity aspect, the First Amendment, or whatever the equivalent would be in the UK, and just a 9-year-old delightful child writing this wonderful blog that's so interesting, and it became such a hit even before this controversy. What are your thoughts on all this? This is kind of a wild story. Just blew up today, right?
Yes, I think the thing which really got me was the fact that the council actually decided to silence a 9-year-old child. That you know, people in authority felt so threatened by this little girl who was doing nothing more than just sharing her own thoughts, that they felt like they had the right to trample on her free speech. So that just got me really mad.
I think the
and that's
ban
when
was
I
lifted.
decided.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think the ban was lifted today.
Oh yeah, yeah. They lifted it out. They lifted it within hours. But yeah, this was just a little 9-year-old girl writing a blog, and it is crazy, Vanessa. What are your friends or neighbors talking about this story?
Yes, I haven't actually had a chance to talk to people yet, but I've been talking with quite a few people on Google Plus, and I think pretty unanimously people are either really upset about it, or even if they say that the council did have a few good points about how the kitchen staff and stuff take it, they say they should have approached it in different ways. You could go and you could talk to her and you could get her to share your side of the story, but just going out for an outright ban, I mean that's just wrong on so many levels.
I don't think they had any idea that this story would blow up. Jason, I'm sure even in Guam people are talking about this. They had this poor school cafeteria crowd had no clue that this thing was going to become this gigantic story. It really blew up in like the last 24 to 36 hours, I guess. But Jason, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, this is a true meme, but not internet meme. It is and it isn't, but it's also just a general mainstream news meme that just completely exploded. Isn't this crazy?
I'm sure we're going to pick that up as a news organization. We're probably going to jump all over this. Things have a tendency, especially international headlines, to filter down to us, maybe give it a day or so. So I'm sure it's already Saturday here in the island, so probably on Monday we'll pick this up and everything. But this kind of parallels what we go through here, because our public education system is grossly underfunded, and it has been for several years, and school lunches have been like or the lack of quality therein have been like a real contentious issue for a long time. I mean, that's always like a staple of our newscast.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's several stories in one. This is first of all, you have this delightful 9-year-old adorable girl who's writing this cute blog that's funny and interesting. The way she talks about, whenever someone sends her a picture from South Africa, where Vanessa's from, or from, wherever, she'll say it took me 14 seconds to find the city on the map, and then they'll rate their own food, right? So it's interesting on that level. It's also I'm getting a little echo. I'm not sure from where. Maybe I'm not sure, but I think it's actually from Jason. Is it? I'm not sure.
Is it me?
I think it's from you. I'm getting a green bar from you,
from
Jason.
Jason.
We need to get your IFB going. But it's interesting on that level. It's interesting because she's now caused 5,000 kids to get free meals in the worst countries in the world with this charity, and then the whole freedom of speech issue, and just and the quality of lunch fare at schools. So it's an amazing.
So this for me is
story.
where I actually think the internet is just such a wonderful thing. The fact that we could turn a controversy and sort of a wrong from sort of a human rights perspective into something that actually feeds children for a year. I mean, that's just so beautiful.
Yeah, talk about a happy ending, Vanessa, huh? This is pretty sweet. Absolutely. Anthony, you had a point on this?
I just wanted to point out that according to the father, he made a side note on one of the blog posts, I think the one that says goodbye, that the school was actually supportive of her taking pictures and the blog. So I think that the council made some statement along the lines of along with various other things that they were she was upsetting the staff at the cafeteria, and at least from the point of view of the father, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. It seems that I assume when he says that the school was supportive, that goes along with the school cafeteria staff. So I don't think that the cafeteria staff was in tears like the council suggested that they were.
I think that there may have been an issue along those lines, because when she said that there was a hair in her food, and how can I possibly be expected to go all day with this single croissant or whatever, and a million people are reading that, and it's on the BBC and the Telegraph, and you're the person responsible for preparing your lunch. I could totally see that this is strange, because it's like this the school is subjected to this spotlight that they're not used to. And they're just like, we're just making these kids lunches like we've always done for 30 years, and we're following the recipe, you know. And all of a sudden, Jamie Oliver's tweeting, and the BBC's here, and there's 7 TV stations outside. And can you imagine the panic as they said that they hired someone in a hair net with a white lab coat to look at this little girl's lunch every day to make sure there were no hairs in it, because they were so scared that there would be something wrong with their lunch. I mean, it was just this crazy story. I can't imagine working at that school. I don't know. It was just it was a interesting situation. But yeah, Jason, I'm sure is going to be all over this thing. They'll be hopping all over this thing, and they'll, you know, they'll tease it. It'll probably be like 28 minutes into the show, because you'll tease it the whole time to keep viewers, because they're all going to want to stay, you know, watching. But any final thoughts on this? And I think Jason has a topic before Alan Oleg come back in, or you have a topic or two. But any final thoughts on this from anybody, Craig or anyone else?
Well, you know,
on this?
When I came in, I heard a mention about funding, that there's not enough funding. I don't remember who said that, but we found in this metro area, at least, schools in Washington D.C. get more funding per student than just about anywhere in the area, and their education system, at least the results of their education system, are you know, abysmal. So I don't think that funding is the answer to solve these problems. We've seen various locations where the funding is very poor or very low per student, and they have much better results. So just throwing money at the problem doesn't seem to solve it, and there seem to be many examples of that.
I don't know if it's so much that, Craig, because first of all, this is a private school and it's in Scotland, and we're dealing with 9-year-olds. So I'm not sure necessarily that the quality or the quantity of food is much of an issue. Although one day she complained that the particular selection that day wasn't as energy providing as she would like. Another day she said she could barely finish it because it was so much, you know. So I don't think that it's that issue. I'm not sure how that works. Okay, YouTube comments. Margie, you want to look at those? Because I'm multitasking here.
Oh, Abracadabra 9307 said, I've worked as a school cook and I wouldn't have eaten what I served. My colleagues and I had very little freedom, and even the potatoes came pre-peeled and vacuum packed from some central kitchen.
Wow, I can't imagine what that would cost. Why can't they peel a potato?
I don't know. I guess it's all about time constraints, trying to get the meal out to that many students.
I have to tell you, working with with food at Wegmans, you'd be surprised at where costs can be cut that you would think it'd be cheaper to produce on site.
You know, which sort of makes me wonder, you know, maybe the kitchen workers were actually a little bit ashamed of what they were serving, and not so much taking it as a personal affront, but, you know, I know if I were there, the fact that I'm getting to serve the children better meals after all of this would actually make me feel quite proud.
Yeah, but Vanessa, I wasn't that I didn't find, looking at the photos, because we both looked at the blog today, I looked at those photos and they seemed like nice meals. I mean, some were more than others. Some looked pretty scant, but I'm sure they have a system where they go through the caloric amount, and they go through the ounces, or milli, whatever in England, milligrams or whatever.
Grams. Yeah.
Grams. Maybe if it's milligrams, I guess it's definitely not enough, even for a 9-year-old. But it seemed to be fairly good. I mean, it seemed to be good quality food. Some days it looked a little sparse. Some days it looked, nice. But we're dealing with 9-year-olds, so I don't think that it was so much an issue of that as much as just a couple of her offhand comments, like finding a hair in her food, and then 1 million people read about it, and the people were freaking out, and they didn't know how to react, and they overreacted, or the council did, and then that became the issue, and it just was this awful nightmare for the school, the poor cafeteria workers, and then the charity thing blew up, and her site blew up, and I hope this kid, I kind of worry about the 9-year-old, because she was just she's this adorable young girl, and all of a sudden, I mean, Jason and I would both kill to interview the girl. We'd pay, you know, to get her on a show. So I can't imagine how many people are bombarding them with interview requests. So now she's a celebrity, will be for quite some time, and will be followed. And I hope that she emerges unscathed from this. This is like the kind of fame, you know, short term, but potentially long term, but not to this degree, that could mess up a little child, right?
I think it's the same kind of momentary fascination. Like you know, several weeks ago there was that story that broke in LA about that little kid. Remember Noah's Arcade? He actually built that entire arcade in his dad's garage out of, you know, just like simple like calculators and discarded cardboard boxes and everything like that. And that was like the big thing that everybody was interested in 3 days and everything. But yeah, you know, to your point, it's insane how the pulse of news has just changed right now. And whereas 15, 20, 25 years before, a story that emerged of this magnitude and everything would captivate everybody for, you know, sometimes even months. Remember, like, remember how long everybody was so fascinated with the Joey Buttafuoco storyline and everything? If that happened today and everything, everybody will be on it for like 2 days and then, you know, it's quickly forgotten.
So she better do the book deal quick.
She's already well on her way to developing lots of content for her first Kindle single. So good for her. Any final thoughts on this? I think this is just an awesome story. And I love happy endings. I love that they've raised, and just since I said this, it was like the blog was, I'm looking at the numbers here, it was 54,000. It's yeah, it's settled down for the night because it's really late over in the UK, and that's where most of the stuff's coming from. But 55,000, I think this morning it was like at $2,000 or 2,000 pounds or 7,000 pounds, and now it's at 55,000. So like 5,000-6,000 kids will eat for a year school lunches. I think that's so awesome, and that's all this was worth it, you know.
Just one thing you made me think about, Dan, is how culpable are we as, you know, as folks in the media or in the social networks for taking a couple comments she had about, you know, here's food, blowing it out of proportion and essentially creating the whole scene out of nothing almost.
Well, that's a good point, because that's what they were said about. I think it was the Telegraph, right? That did. There was a specific headline that the school that caused. I don't know what I think it was. The headline. I forget. I read it and then I've forgotten it because I was looking at so many different things today. But it was something about her comment, I think, where she said, "How is someone? There's only one croissant or something on the plate, and I'm expected to, you know, have energy for the rest of the day from this. I don't see how I can. Could you?" Or something like that, where she was complaining about the quantity of food that day and the selection where she left hungry. And so the Telegraph newspaper in the UK just blew that up. And then the school freaked out. And, you know, so that led to the council having a meeting with the staff, and I guess saying that you can't bring your camera into lunch anymore. And then she did a blog post, "Goodbye, you know, this is the end," or something. And then, you know, international news overnight. I posted it, and I was like, this is outrageous. This is insane. And then, of course, within a few hours, you know, oh, sorry, you know. And then they've done a series of different blog posts, and now they've deleted their posts. The council that actually is in charge of the school, they've put out various versions of a statement, and then they keep revising it. First, they were like, well, no one else has ever complained. And then they said, like, oh, we're so thankful about the charity. And then now they've deleted that because they don't know how to react, because they're not used to, you know, millions and millions of people tweeting about them. Can you imagine? I mean, these are not public figures, really. This is like some little council in Scotland, for God's sakes. And all of a sudden, you know, ABC News is calling, and every news organization in the world. And Jason and I are shooting each other to see who can get there first to get the interview. It's crazy. But, yeah, this is awesome. I mean, but I love happy endings, and in the end, a bunch of kids are going to get meals that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I don't think, had any of us ever heard of Mary's Meals, the charity, before this event? Jason, I mean, you're a journalist like I am. You'd never heard of it. That's the real victory here. All of a sudden,
my fascination with London, all my fascination with London and the UK these days is about the Olympics, and that's what I'm gearing up for. So this was even off my radar. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for you.
I thought you were a big Jubilee guy. All about, you know, had the figurines of all the royals. Any final thoughts on this wonderful story that we've totally milked, I guess, to fruition here? All right. So Jason, you had something. Vanessa, do you have anything you want to?
Hey, Dan, I just want to add this.
Yeah, go ahead, Sariq, and then let's see if Vanessa has anything she wants to pipe on, and Jason Salas.
What I just wonder is, I mean, I didn't actually involve in the discussion at all, because I'm just wondering how sensationalized our media is. When one 9-year-old kid blogs about a food, I'm not saying it's not a big thing, but it was wonderful to read about that. 3 million hits on a web page. At the same time, there are millions of people without any food at all, and we never talk about that. Anyway, that's just my comment.
I agree, and I've lived in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and West Africa, and I've seen exactly what you're talking about. This is, I mean, news is not created as much as it just happens, and by definition, it's new. Tell me something I didn't know. News is something new, and a 9-year-old food blogger who gets praised by Oliver, and then gets her camera banned from school, and in the meantime raises, $70,000 to feed starving kids overseas. I mean, it's just, that's a news story. I'm sorry that you can call us sensationalist, headline chasing whores, whatever you want to call us, but that is news. I mean, that's news, and we're all interested in it.
And Shriek, it's not about reporting things that are going to help society or educate society or bring news to society. It's about sensationalizing and getting viewers. You have to realize that these media organizations are in the death throes. I mean, they're in the swamp. They are.
No, we're not.
That looks perfectly alive to me.
They are trying to.
See, he's trying to get a rise out of me, just like Jason does. See, you guys.
They are trying to survive any way they can, and credibility.
It's not that bad, is it?
Credibility be damned. They're going to do what they need to do to get viewers and to get eyeballs.
Are you pointing at Dan when you said that?
No,
He's just trying to yank my chain.
Dan is the only legitimate media guy I know.
Oh, no.
You know Jason. Jason's a TV anchor in Guam, the greater metro Guam area, with his Queensryche. God, I just want you to know I can sing the heck out of that song. I'll do it in a hangout one time, but it can't be a broadcast hangout.
Oh, I have to add that. Anybody knew that Dan is a first-rate singer?
Well, I don't know about that.
All you have
I'm
to
going to hold you to that, Dan.
Oh, I'll do it for you.
Is watch any of the major news broadcasts, and you tell me that it's not about entertainment.
It is,
Tell
but
me that.
but this story, in our defense, this story, Craig, is just straight up interesting. I was reading all day. I looked at her. I read her entire blog. I read the Telegraph stuff. I learned about this charity that can feed a child for a year for $16. And they actually, with this little girl's donations, when she was at 7,000 pounds, they had enough to build a kitchen for a school in Malawi that would feed the 1,600 kids there. And I was like, my God, then now they're up to 55,000 pounds. And if you look at her blog, it's getting, I mean, the counter's running like the national debt clock of visitors. It's crazy. It's just a wonderful story. And I think it has a great happy ending because kids are going to get fed. The girl has her camera back, and we've learned it's just an interesting story. And hopefully she'll be on Google Plus Week, in 5 weeks when nobody else will return her calls anymore because she's yesterday's news. She'll be welcome on our show.
If the charity in question, if the people are volunteers and none of them are taking salaries and none of the money's going into overhead and so on and so forth, then I agree with you. It's a great thing. It's a great thing for people to pitch in and help each other out. But all I'm saying is I don't trust the media as far as I can throw them, and I wouldn't take anything they say with an ounce of truth.
You are the media. You're a hypocrite. You are the media.
No.
You have a website that produces content to get eyes, and you produce local original content, and you have advertising adjacent to it. You're the media. What's the difference? What's the difference in Jason doing Wednesday's Child and you going and taking pictures of some parade?
Because
you both throw it up on the web or through the media to get advertising revenue.
I don't editorialize any of it. I just take the pictures and the videos and put them up and let people look
Jason
at them.
doesn't do op-eds.
I don't even write a paragraph of comment about it. I just put the stuff up and say, look at it.
It's just a different form of content. That's like saying...
Yeah, but it's not me commenting on something that I don't know anything about.
So you're like C-SPAN as opposed to Fox News or MSNBC.
Well, all of them. All they do is sit there and pontificate over all kinds of things.
What's the difference between you and C-SPAN.com? What's the difference?
Well, C-SPAN, if they're
They
just
don't
showing a
they don't
video,
editorialize.
if they're showing a video of the things that are actually happening and people can watch it, then that's right. That's news.
What's the
that's
difference between what they
fact.
do and what you do? You're
Not
both
that
showing
much
video
different.
of local events.
But what I do is meaningful to people's lives. What they do is you know, as far as I'm concerned, we could fire them all and we'd all be ahead of the game. But the point is,
Dust
all
off
I'm
a halo
saying-
on your head,
Shake-
Craig.
all I'm saying is these news outlets, that all they do is comment on information they get from other places. If they're going to go out there and get the information, if they're going to go out there and get a camera live and get an interview with this girl and get the information and all, I'm all for that. But I'm
Craig, are you
not for
saying
them
there aren't any good
regurgitating things.
reporters anymore in the world?
Excuse me?
Are you saying there are no really good field reporters anymore?
There are a few, and they do a little bit of that, but the vast majority of it is just sitting around talking like we're doing about whatever, and they're not actually going out and getting their shoes dirty. Most of them.
What do you think that is? I mean, in this day and age when we have so much information at our fingertips, do you really need to go get your, you know?
Well, I mean, how else are you going to get it? I go out in the field and take photos and shoot videos and put them up so that people can watch them. If I didn't go there and do that, I can't do it by satellite yet. If I could do it by satellite, then maybe I would.
Okay,
But,
well, that's a good
yeah,
point.
that's
So
the only
what
way
you're
to
really
get it.
calling out for is balance, right? That you would rather that people, you know, get more of the story, get more of the facts, dive deeper into what's going on, and instead of just all the sensationalism that's going on and all the editorial stuff, that actually just give us the facts. You want more and more of the story. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And I can do without the prior.
We got to move, but yeah, Craig, you are absolutely a media organization, even if you're afraid to admit it.
I'm a content producer.
Whatever. CraigShip.com. Check it out. Make sure you click on some of the ads on the page next to his content.
There are no ads on my website.
On his non-media.
Is Craig on the left or on the right?
Dad, I'm seeing ads on the YouTube live video now.
You're seeing what?
I'm seeing ads when I try to load the live video for this YouTube Hangout.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you can skip in 5 seconds.
Okay.
Did you check your bank account last time? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Jason, now that we've exhausted, Craig always tries to get a rise out of me, and it's easily accomplished. Jason does the same thing sometimes. He'll beat up on my print business. But Jason, you had some stuff you want to talk about tonight.
Okay, so seeing as how the show hasn't been about Google Plus, even though it's Google Plus week for about like the last hour, let me.
No, and it was because the little girl's blog was hosted on Google's Blogger. That was the scam.
Yeah.
That was the way I snuck it in there for SEO purposes. I mean, because it was Blogger.
Okay, well, of course you mentioned, a few minutes ago when I was holding up my my Queensryche shirt. By the way, Operation Mindcrime, greatest album ever. So talking about subjective opinions there. You were talking about how you, of course, are a very astute singer, Dan, and of course a very good friend of the Google Plus community, the sweetheart of the Google Plus community, and I don't think that's any stretch of hyperbole by saying that, is of course Daria Musk. She was maybe the first homegrown celebrity that we had here in our community, going all the way back to the field trial days of Google Plus. And she actually did a very interesting event yesterday. She evidently partnered up with Verizon Wireless, and they agreed to sponsor her, and they let her do a rooftop concert in New York City. And so she was on top of this building, and the way it was marketed initially, and Verizon, kind of didn't go all whole hog with the marketing of it, but they said, the entire concert is going to be broadcast over 4G LTE. Now, as a marketer, as a technologist, this greatly intrigued me because I was like, okay, does that mean that maybe Google is trying to, slowly, slyly say that that's going to be a way where we can finally actually watch Hangouts on air over mobile devices? And maybe Verizon was, going to try and angle in on that. And then as it turned out and everything, I tried to look into it, and then Verizon actually said, yeah, the whole thing is going to be broadcast over our 4G LTE network. So Daria was singing and she was performing, as was Ram, her collaborator. And the thing was basically broadcast over their 4G network, which I'm just assuming was maybe over a MiFi card or a USB dongle or something like that. It was very entertaining. That having been said, there truly is no business like show business. And the production itself wasn't without its share of issues. Okay,
Yeah,
anybody
they
in this
lost
room right now,
power a
raise your hand
lot.
if you actually watched it.
I
Raise your hand
watched
if you
it.
watched it. Okay, so we got at least one person who watched. Okay, Margie watched it.
I watched it too. Yeah, not
Okay,
live, but I watched the video. Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who may not have seen it, just summarizing it and everything, Daria was her normal stellar self. They had a few technical glitches, and if you saw some of the pictures that were being taken, some of the images that were shot by some of the people who were invited there, like Tiffany Henry, took some really amazing shots. Daria actually had a really interesting setup because it seemed like they wanted to, Verizon did, they wanted to make this a very organic production, but at the same time give it a very professional feel. And so when Tiffany took her shots, you can actually see that Daria had, all of her guitar pedals, and Ram had his, obviously had his electric bass, and he had, their amp stacks, and they were wired in directly into what I'm assuming was a board because the audio quality was very good. But then they had all these lighting fixtures and everything. So, I mean, it looked very professional. But when Daria started singing and performing her numbers twice, she lost her audio, and the people who were working with her on the Hangout were saying, oh, she may have overloaded the power circuit, so they're going to try and do something else. And then twice, getting into the latter part of the concert, the internet connectivity actually dropped out, and Verizon had to start a brand new Hangout. And then the people that were in there, some of them rejoined. They had some other new people join in. So I would say, in all fairness, Daria was absolutely amazing. As I said, she didn't go to pieces. She was very entertaining throughout. Even when they had some technical problems, she even said, she goes, hey, we're still going to make this work. If I have to turn and sing into my laptop, we're going to perform a show for you guys. So she was absolutely brilliant, and she always is. I would say, in fairness, that Verizon probably is going to take a little bit of heat for this, if any. But I am never going to knock somebody for thinking outside the box and trying to do something that nobody has ever done. And certainly to this level, nobody has ever pulled that off in our community, where you actually want to host a concert over a wireless network. I mean, I've talked to some friends of mine who are telecom engineers, or some friends who do event management, and I kind of described the environment and the setup to them and everything, and they were like, really, you're going to try and broadcast a concert over wireless? And they were admittedly impressed, because they were like, that's inherently dangerous. And if you guys have seen that PDF that's making its way around by the Google marketing team that says, how to do a professional Hangout on air, they say, try and do a hardline connection, try and be plugged into Ethernet if you can, because do not do this off of Wi-Fi, because it's just, so much more susceptible to dropouts. And so there's a bunch of things we can learn from this, as far as, the fact that the concert was performed up on top of a building, if that was any better or any worse than it had Daria, performed at street level. What was redundancy as far as them, actually supporting the concert with some sort of connectivity. And, like I said, I mean, I'm assuming.
Can I stop you for just 1 second?
Sure.
I was just wondering, why didn't they do a run through, or did they do a run through of the concert before to check all the connections and to see if it was gonna, blow out anything that was too much bandwidth or too much,
Well, that's the other thing.
was going through.
Yeah, Margie. That's a good point, because if you notice, the concert actually was supposed to start at 6 p.m. Eastern time in New York and everything, and it started, I think, 32 minutes late. And some people were kind of concerned about that. And then when they started, they had the sporadic technical glitches and everything. I'm assuming that they would do a thorough run through. But again, I mean, if you're doing that on a public wireless network, you really can't tell what's going to happen 5 minutes from now.
Yeah, the problem with a run through is you're not going to have everybody there. You're not going to have all the same wireless interference. There's so many variables that it's just it's like a Wi-Fi connection. Somebody turns on a shaver, a quarter mile away, can affect that. So
I think a lot of it is because we're early adopters, right? I mean, this is like the beginning of the internet or anything else. It's a brand new service, and
but if it's sponsored by Verizon, if Verizon's providing technical assistance, you think that these guys would, get the wireless part working correctly? Maybe. Maybe?
But you could also make the statement that when Leo Laporte does his shows and he has somebody call in from a location where they know they have a lousy connection and they're coming in on some hotel's Wi-Fi or whatever, and the guy keeps cutting out and they keep reconnecting with Skype, You would think that they would just have the guy call on the telephone. Have we ever heard of a telephone? Right? But yet people try to do, they try to use the new stuff or whatever. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So
Can I add something?
Here's another perspective, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is how Hangouts kind of these days are the equivalent of what we had in the pirate radio days, where it's completely new territory, and we're a little bit more tolerant for the occasional oopsie like that. And to what Alan was saying, I think, is it fair to say that it's a little bit better for Verizon's own marketing to say that we're so confident in the capabilities of our own wireless network, we're not going to set up a dedicated circuit just for this concert so that we can guarantee that there will be no problems and everything. We're so confident in the integrity of our system and everything, we're actually going to run it over our public 4G network, and whatever happens, happens. And that will just, kind of augment,
Jason,
augment the real nature of the concert. I mean, it's risky as hell.
Yeah, it's sort of in some ways it's an art form. It's very much like the artist. You never know what's going to happen in real life. They don't know if it's going to rain. It just part of its art. It kind of adds a whole coloration to what they're doing. Maybe they weren't looking for perfection. Maybe they're looking for reality.
And that's why there isn't that much live. That's why there isn't that much live television anymore, because anything can happen.
That's a good point, Craig.
Hey, Jason, was it a promotion event from Verizon to promote the 4G LTE network?
I think, I know they sponsored Daria to get this all set up, and they didn't really promote it very heavily. I mean, they kind of just, perhaps strategically so, they just did it within the confines of the Google Plus community, and they just had like maybe a couple posts about it, and Daria just shared it with her circles.
So if having it is going to meet the purpose if they're going to have an Ethernet connection directly connected. If they are promoting the LTE, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's probably.
Well, because then you can say that people are just going to they're going to flip the script on Verizon, and they're going to say, well, okay, Verizon said we're going to do a 4G concert, say 2 years from now, once they get everything squared away, and they're going to say with Britney Spears, and everyone's going to be, well, that's not exactly over their public 4G network. Of course, they're Verizon, so they can set up an entire sonnet ring and everything just to guarantee this thing doesn't go down.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So like I was saying, and like Dr. Levin said, I mean, the open and almost like reality TV nature of the whole thing, when you're subject to technical issues and everything like that, that just made it that much more real.
And the fact is, most people, if they're watching this on a smartphone, they're very used to dropouts. You lose your phone calls all the time, so it's not that unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be able to ask Daria about this because she's going to be on the show in a week or two. We booked her. It was a calendar glitch because of this event and some other stuff she's doing. But yeah, she's awesome, very talented young lady, beautiful, and she's smart, and she has really embraced Google Plus, and Google Plus has embraced her back. And I think Jason's right. She's the first true Google Plus celebrity. She was playing little. Well, I'm joking.
Well,
but
Dan, let me add one more thing, because think about in the grander scheme of things. I mean, okay, this wasn't a perfectly orchestrated event, right? I mean, it did have its problems. They had 2 dropouts. They had audio issues and everything. But think of what this is going to do at a macro level for other organizations. Other large TV networks or telecom carriers or car dealerships and everything that actually want to do big time productions and everything, and they're going to say, wow, all they had was like a little just your average connection, and because of the way that Hangouts are architected, all you have to do as a content creator is just send a single video feed up to the server, and then you can have an almost infinite viewership, and you don't have to have any more bandwidth as far as you're concerned and everything like that. The back end takes care of all that and everything. So I think this is going to serve to inspire a lot of other types of creative content. Yeah, it didn't work out as perfectly as it could and everything like that. But just keep in mind, this could have been a lot worse.
Well, I don't think I wouldn't put it in those terms. I think it's more like when I was a kid, and when Craig was about 40 or so, but that was a dig, just kidding. But like if you think about it, this is like when satellites first came out with Ted Koppel and Nightline, and they were first. I mean, when satellites for television broadcasts were first coming into vogue, sort of. And they had a delay of like 10 seconds, Jason, between the question and the answer, and it was awkward. And you really had to have everything scripted. And you'd have to wait for them to finish talking, and then you'd hear it, and they were stepping on each other. And now it's much more seamless, and it's smoother. So I think it's sort of, the growing pains like this. But again,
question, Jason, when you said it dropped out, I was doing a Hangout on air the other day, and my browser locked up. I was the one that was on air, and my browser froze up. It basically crashed. I had to relaunch the Hangout, and I went back in. The Hangout was still going on. Everybody else was still in the Hangout. I went back in. It remained on air. It ended up with like a 30-second or however long it took me to relaunch my browser and all that and get back in. A black screen that comes up that says, we'll be right back. Okay, so that's in the recording, but it was one recording. It just has that black section in it, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what happened to hers, or did she have to start a whole new Hangout?
Well, hers, she had, the occasional sporadic, like the audio would drop out for a couple seconds, like it's prone to do. So, I'm not going to rag on that. During the first broadcast, which I believe the first, there's 2 YouTube videos up. The first one is about 38 minutes, and I think maybe at the 32nd minute, which was the initial, and maybe, Margie, you can kind of refresh my memory if I'm getting this wrong. The video signal froze, and then you could kind of hear audio, and then audio dropped out too, and then everybody, of course, was still in the Hangout, and then that obligatory "we'll be right back" Hangout screen came up, and then they actually held on to that for maybe a couple minutes, and then they just killed the Hangout, and they started a new one.
Okay, interesting.
I'm just gonna go wash my.
Okay, well, so all right, so we all agree it was
one more thing.
Awesome broadcast. Go ahead, Craig, and then we'll move on.
What I would just say that this really illustrates is that we need to light a fire under Google, or we have to get some organization with enough money to build a reliable wireless internet system for this country, to step up and build a completely independent system of high-speed wireless. I'll pay $100 a month if I can get 100 megabits up and 100 megabits down, reliable all over the country. Because Verizon isn't up to doing it, AT&T's not up to doing it. They're not going to do it. They've got too much of a monopoly. They don't have any reason to do it. And so we need to get Apple or Google or somebody with money and with a dog in the hunt to step up and build us a wireless system that we can use.
Well, I don't think that that's the solution. I think that the problem is that it was wireless.
Well, but we still need wireless, Dan. I can't hook a cable to my bus and go down the road. I'm sorry. I can't hook a cable to my car and go down the road. I still need wireless. Yes, I want cable coming to my house and any fixed location. I want a cable I can hook into. But I still want as reliable as can possibly be built wireless anywhere I go. And I'm willing to pay for it, and I think a lot of people would be willing to pay for it. We all pay for our cell phones. We're all going towards data. We all need data. So we need somebody to compete with these monopolies and light a fire under them.
Jason, you better watch out. He's coming after your Spectrum. He's trying to steal your Spectrum.
No, yeah, and I think, and I'm sure Craig's not alone when he's, putting out that pipe dream and everything. Best of luck. I mean, I'm right in there with you about.
But the more of us that start talking about it and start making an issue, we'll hopefully start getting some of the ears of the elected officials and maybe get the ear of Google. Their phones aren't going to, none of this stuff is going to work until we have reliable internet. It's all based on the internet.
It's a lot of things. I think the key is it's the beginning. Like Winston Churchill, it's not the end or the beginning of the end. It's the end of the beginning. It's still in its infancy, Craig, to a degree.
Well, yeah, but Dan, I don't have as many years as you have. You've already pointed that out earlier in the Hangout. I can't wait, that much longer here, guy.
You look good without your glasses.
I'm going to be able to make it either.
I need my internet now.
I see you've got. Do you have contacts in, Craig, or what's the deal?
If I can just get the last word in about the Verizon
yes, sir.
and the concert thing, it's like, yeah. Just to summarize, I mean, it didn't go as perfectly as probably anyone would have hoped and everything like that, but you got to tip your hat to them for at least getting the ball rolling. This has much larger implications than just that 45-minute event.
Just to have the attention of Verizon with the Google Plus event is awesome, and I'm so proud of Daria, who's I've hung out with before, and she's, like I said, she's going to be on the show soon. She's wonderful, talented, and it's exciting to see someone moving closer to becoming a major star based on her early adoption of Google Plus and becoming a celebrity here. And so I think that that's fantastic. So, you know, this would be like Jason Salas hosting, you know, the Today Show or something.
No, I think honestly, Daria, next step Saturday Night Live.
You think she's going to be on Saturday Night Live?
I think Dan just wants Jason and Daria to pull him along on their coattails. I think that's what we've got going on here.
Well, Daria will really take off once she gets the Google Plus Week bump, I'm sure.
Well, Alan has some really interesting news now. Speaking of Google Plus and changes to the platform.
Indeed, and Alan. That's called a segue. Speaking of segues, not like Craig Ship's Segway, which he uses to produce content for his media company, but an actual transitional thing there. Go ahead, Alan. You've got several topics you'd like to hit on. Please do.
Yeah, the first is that we've got a lot of Google games ended up being in the news this week, and it's kind of interesting how and why. The first are reports that some of the big name game companies, not Zynga, but some of the teams like PopCap, have begun to pull their games out of Google Plus. Basically saying that it's just not worth their time to even support the games they've already got here, never mind develop new ones. There's been a lot of talk about it, and all of the talk that I've seen kind of has been focusing around well, so what? Let them go. I didn't use games here anyway. Nobody uses games here anyway. Nobody would want to use games here anyway. But I think in a lot of ways that kind of missing some of the point. You know, the point is Google was giving all of these companies a huge cut of the gaming revenue, far more than Facebook was giving them, and they still found it unprofitable. And you got to wonder if that's true. And this is something that Eric Rice started bringing up. If that's true, does that start playing into the whole Ghost Town story? Is it saying that, hey, maybe there's just not enough people here to support a gaming ecosystem? And one of the things I pointed out is, well, you know, is anybody really surprised that games are failing here? After all, Google really tried as hard as they could to not support them. So I'm kind of curious what the rest of the panel thinks about.
What do you mean they tried so hard not to support them? By not spamming us?
They tossed them into a ghetto.
They
gave it almost no features that are, you know, even vaguely Google Plus like.
But you were critical of them when they initially had notifications, and now you're critical because they stopped.
No, I was critical of them then. I'm critical of them now because there's almost no integration with Google Plus.
But you were and now you're being Alan. I love you, but you're being a hypocrite on this.
What?
You're being a hypocrite on this. I still love you.
Dan, go back and look at what I said from the beginning. I said that they were ghettoizing games and that this was a mistake.
But weren't we all concerned that that when we first heard about games, we thought, oh my God, Zuckerberg has arrived, and we're going to get this crammed down our throat in our stream. And I still get some people who mention like their score or whatever, and it still sneaks past the thing when I immediately turned off. I don't want game notifications, but we don't. I mean, the alternative is if you make it prominent, you upset people who don't care. I mean, as much as I like Jason Salas, I'm not going to feed his pigs in Farmville, and I don't care, you know, about his conquest in
there are two things
Zagernia. You know what I mean?
There are two things to this. The first is that some people do care. And that is, you know, some people play social games with other people because, hey, this is a social platform, and games are social.
But the difference is it's opt-in. That's the difference. In Google Plus, it's opt-in, and in Facebook, it's opt-out.
The other thing is that if Google had done it correctly, if they had made it so that it was opt-in, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Google has this feature called Circles, something like that? Has anybody heard of Circles before?
Circles.
What do you say? I mean, I think you're missing the point, Alan. I think it's the demographic group. I think it's the demographic group. I think the kind of people who are on Google Plus are not big game players. It's not. It's still not a mainstream social network.
That's true, because once it went public, there are so many people that do play games on here. I'm like, I actually opened up my game notifications just to see, if a lot of people were playing. I was getting tons of notifications. So a lot of people are playing games on here, and they want good games on Google Plus. I want good games on Google Plus. I just don't want it in our mainstream. It would be nice if they would create a game notification stream would be easily accessed from our main homepage.
We'll get to that in a minute, Margie. That's the next item.
This is a lot like the benefit that Jason and I have as mainstream media people versus a website. A website is a destination you have to choose to go to, whereas a television station like Jason works at, or a newspaper that's has a footprint in every store in the county, has an advantage because it's where you are. When you're flipping through the channels, you run across Jason's station. He has more of a viewership than any website streaming would ever have. I'm sure he clobbers YouTube in Guam, right? And I clobber them in Warren County. Maybe not YouTube, but you see what I'm saying. Whereas in Facebook, this stuff was thrown in your face. It's constant. There's no way to avoid it, like in that little stream on the side where it says, so-and-so, combed his hair and so-and-so just took the trash out. I mean, every little thing you do is, every article, so-and-so just read an article about Viagra in the Facebook stream on the right, but whereas in Google Plus, it's opt-in. I think that's the difference. Facebook shoves it down your throat and generates revenue that way, whereas Google Plus is just doesn't mind that Google Plus is a money-sucking hole for a while, and they're not going to shove it down your throat because there were so many complaints about the incessant notifications in Facebook, and as a result, they're not making as much money here.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing: you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because by Dan's logic, which makes a lot of sense, Google learned from Facebook's what became the running gag on Facebook for a period of years, where people said like, hey, there's all these really cool games, and even if I'm not into it, I still get inundated with, hey, I just found a fish. Hey, can you feed my pig? Can you harvest my turnips and everything like that? And people
but
really
there's so many controls and options now to easily block all games.
No, yeah,
You
no,
block all
I
game
get- and I get
notifications
that.
from
So
your
I'm
friends
saying,
and
so
stuff.
what
Yeah, and I understand.
Yeah,
They
so
did
what
just
what
throw it
did,
at, but they were building up the game platform at the time. So
No, but so to Dan's point, they actually took that and they said, okay, well, we learned from what people don't like about Facebook. We're going to give it its own
Yeah, I
space.
understand.
But and that leads into what Alan said, which is also equally logical, is because now they said you put it in its own space, and Alan just said you compartmentalized it too much and everything like that, and you never really gave it its due.
I think there's time for a reality check here. There's nobody on Google Plus playing games because there's nobody on Google Plus.
Okay,
You cannot compare
That's the
Facebook.
point, Craig.
You cannot compare Facebook to Google Plus in any way, shape, or form.
So,
There's
Craig,
a billion people on Facebook.
So Craig, you're saying that Google Plus is a ghost town?
Yes, of course it is.
Only by comparison, Craig, to Facebook.
Yes, that's right.
All the smart, cool people are here, and the mainstream is on Facebook.
It is.
Oh, so you're saying that it's an elitist ghost town?
That's exactly what it is. It is people that can get through all the hurdles and all the potholes and all the pitfalls that Google has set up to make us get in, to allow us to get in here. You got to get through all of that, and then you get in here to this beautiful place. But I'm telling you, they're making it hard to get in here.
It's the limousine.
That's
So
why people aren't here.
we're the limousine sausage techno factory.
Back,
Here on
I wanna
Google
make a-
Plus.
Can I make a comment, Dan, about the game
Yes, sir.
environment on Google?
Please do, Gary Levin, MD. Please make a comment about the games. That's not
I've,
elitist at all. A medical doctor on Google Plus.
Well, I just have
A
to tell you
brilliant, handsome medical doctor.
Indeed.
Yeah, right. Okay, I haven't got my hip boots on, but I just wanted to see what playing a game was like. I've never tried to play a game on Google Plus, so that's why I dropped out. I accidentally disconnected myself from the Hangout, and I wound up with a bunch of strange people from other places in the world that were speaking a different foreign language. And I'm not sure, I'm not into gaming, but to me it seems like playing a game on Google Plus is it's bizarre. I mean, is that a game? It's sort of like a quiz show. It's not a fast-moving environment. And I guess I'm not into those kind of games. I'm a Duke Nukem kind of Halo sort of person. My kids play a lot of those games. And these look like card games. They're sort of like board games, basically, is what it
Well,
is.
it depends which game you were playing. I mean, there are certainly some games that are more fast-paced than others. You know, something like Edgeworld, for example, can be a fairly, you know, somewhat action game. Is it Duke Nukem? No, it's not. But it's something more like an MMORPG. Not exactly that either. But, you know, there's real stuff out there. There's real stuff where you need to collaborate with other people to do missions. You know, so there are social aspects to some of these games beyond, hey, can you feed my pig?
I'm sure Google's got some statistic on that as well. I'd be nice to know what it looks like.
Well, you know, gentlemen, there's also something, and Alan touched on this in the very beginning, because he was saying, you know, how Google actually is, at least in theory, very advantageous because they take so much less of a cut than does Facebook when you list a game on that platform and everything. But it's kind of the same analogy that you can draw between, you know, trying to develop a native app and listing it in the iTunes App Store or in Google Play. If you're a small shop and you've only got enough developers to concentrate on one platform at a time, and you've got this app concept and you want to release it and everything like that, even though Apple, as I understand it, they still take a much bigger cut if you list a native app, or even for Google Music and, you know, listing music in the iTunes App Store, it's the same way. But even though they take a much bigger cut and you're going to make that much less money, you've got to go where the eyeballs are, and you want to go for scale. So if you've got to concentrate on one platform or the other, most people are going to opt towards iOS. So what those game developers are saying, it's like, you know, it would be great if we had the resources that we could maintain, you know, developing our games and listing them on this and everything like that. But if we're just not making enough money, you know, we got to do what's the best business sense for us.
Right, exactly.
Does Google need the games, or, I mean, do they care about the profits, the 5% profits that are coming from Google Plus games, or
No,
are they just
I
putting
don't
it
think,
there because?
I don't think Google cares so much about the money that they're making. I think they'd like to make a little bit of money, but I don't think that's really why they care. I think they realize that part of the attraction of Facebook are the games. And they said, hey, let's throw some spaghetti against the wall, and we need to have games here. And, you know, it's, you know, step 3, profit.
Right. And I think this comes back to the Google Plus is not a social network. It's a layer on top of the entire Google property. And if Google Plus doesn't make money, then so be it. But because it's, you know, keeping people on, you know, the entire properties. And
again, this isn't the end of the world. This isn't apocalypse, you know, to this platform or to anything else. All it was a couple game vendors just said, it's like, hey, you know, we looked at the numbers and everything like that. It's just not panning out. We're going to pull our content. This doesn't mean, you know, the platform will cease to exist in 2 weeks from now and everything.
No,
so,
I don't think this is saying the platform will cease to exist. I don't even think it says that the gaming aspect of this platform will cease to exist.
Does the platform even really exist if nobody's using it?
Oh.
Did the tree fall in the forest if nobody was there to hear it?
Not to use a cliche.
Well, if no one's using the game platform, then who cares, right?
The point is that nobody's using Google Plus.
Nobody's using the platform, period. That's right. The whole thing.
I have no idea, but I mean, what percentage of users use the games on Facebook? Like I said, I have no idea. Is it 10% or is it 90%?
I get a bunch of them.
I think it's more than 10%.
But wait a minute. So, like,
let's put it this way.
Wait.
No, hang on. Let me answer your question partly. Let's put it this way. We know from the Facebook IPO filing that 12% of their income came from Zynga. And that's just Zynga.
Right, which I mean...
and that's
right.
Farmville, right? Basically, it was
Farmville, Cityville,
yeah. That's where their money.
That brings up a couple comments I want to get to, Alan, from YouTube Live. One person pointed out about Zynga's stock. I think it's fallen by 57% in the last 3 months.
That was from Abracadabra, and yes, I mean, that's true, but at least part of that is because of the Facebook fiasco.
Yeah, but I just...
Well, the Facebook fiasco was not a fiasco for Facebook. They did great. And
they made a lot of money,
a couple days ago in Facebook, you're doing great right now.
There was a great news story today from Reuters, the Facebook IPO, their stock picked up a little bit, Craig, and they're no longer the worst IPO ever. So the good news, they're not the worst ever IPO anymore.
It never hit the number I was looking for. I was looking for 17 to buy in. Never got there.
Well, you're rich, you know, with all your money from your media empire. You're getting all this.
I couldn't afford it at 27. I needed it to get down to 17. Didn't get there.
It's funny because like, our two businesses do about the same, and I have like 50 employees, and he has 2. So he's sitting there all rich and fat and happy over there.
Anyway, other comments from YouTube Live.
Okay, other YouTube comments. ¿Cómo hago para poner mi cámara en vivo? From Victor Pedrera. I have no idea what I just said.
And Google Translate says...
I don't know. I hope it wasn't porn. The main reason why people stick to Facebook is not because of the games. It is because everyone else is there, so they don't have much of a choice. Question, Alan. How much if you want to play a game on your computer, what is the environment like on Facebook versus Google versus playing some just straight up online game versus using your Xbox? I mean, why would you do it?
Oh, the answer there is
why
simple.
would you do it
Xbox
socially
is a better social
if they
feature.
hid the social aspect to it, right? On Facebook, they don't hide the social aspect. When you're playing, I deliberately don't play anything on Facebook because I don't want to spam my friends. And I don't add any apps. You know, I hate all that stuff. But if you're going to play a game in a social network, why would you do it if they hide the social aspect of it the way Google Plus does, right? Whereas Facebook, it goes out, and if there are several friends you have who like to play the same game, I could see how that'd be fun. Like if you and me and Oleg and Jason were all into this, then I could see, and Jason wants to talk on this, but I could see where it would make sense to, if Jason, you and I were all into the same game, and we could share our results and we were all stoked about it, then that would make sense. But the way Google Plus does it, they kind of mask all that. So I could see where you can argue. Well, I don't think Google Plus is a ghost town, but I think Google Plus Games is in fact a ghost town. Jason?
Well, the games component of the larger Google Plus umbrella product also served to be like a great staging platform for what was possible on the web too. And you know, there was a racing game that came out that was released about maybe 6 months ago and everything like that. And it was 3-dimensional, and it required, you know, a pretty significant computer to run it and everything like that. But it was HTML5 as opposed to being Flash. And so that kind of just like showed off the capabilities of the web, and that was kind of like a secondary or maybe even tertiary benefit of games. It's like, hey, like look at this gallery of cool things that don't need a browser plugin. I mean, that wasn't part of the big, you know, the big business plan, which I guess was your question or anything like that. But it showed off what is possible.
I only played Picture Area or whatever that one time on Google Plus, but that was social. I mean, we were sharing the document amongst the people and that were in there doing it and so forth. I mean, it was social, right?
Well, you're talking about a Hangout game that you were playing, I assume.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Picture Area. Yeah.
Yeah, they were
I
playing.
think it was more interactive than social.
Well, I would call those social. I think what the problem is, what's been called a social game largely these days is because it originated on Facebook. I call them antisocial games because they're more about harassing your friends as opposed to really teaming up with your friends. I understand why some people like them, and yeah, they can be fun, they can be mindless, and you know that can be fun in and of itself. But you know, there's a lot other ways that social games could have evolved. And the way they evolved on Facebook is one path. And I was hoping that on Google Plus they would have evolved on a different path. And they didn't. And the reason why they didn't is because Google didn't offer any incentive, any reason, or any technology to do so. Instead,
well, also remember the demographics of the Facebook community were a bunch, like it was so much more of a community based of young people. So of course games are going to resonate with that crowd so much more, and you know, and the use of the games is going to be so much more pronounced as opposed to what we had in the first 8 months of Google Plus, which was adults 18 and over who were writing.
You
Jason,
know,
I'm gonna
and,
tell
and
you-
Jason,
hang on.
go
Hang on.
ahead.
Somebody quoted me this statistic today, and it surprised me a little bit because it wasn't what I had heard. That most of the games on Facebook are played by males in their upper 40s.
Okay.
And that surprised me because I
Yeah.
thought it was played by females in their upper 40s.
but Jason makes a good point, and I talked about this many months ago, back at the beginning when they said 18 and up, and I made the prediction then. I said, what's going to happen here is you're going to have the early adopters come in that are 18 and up. They're going to come in and they're going to like this platform and they're going to use it and so forth. And nobody else is going to come because the only way you get everybody else is to get everybody else. You need to get the whole families coming over. If you don't allow the 13 to 18-year-olds, you're not going to get the whole family. And so that's what they did. They created a situation where they got a relatively small group of people to adopt this, the early adopters that love the Hangouts and love these features and love Google, which we all do, I think. But they left everybody else out in the lurch. And now everybody else is still, they're like, it's off their radar screen. In the early days, there was a lot of buzz and there were some people talking about it, and I was talking about it on Facebook. I even had an account shut down because of that. But there was a lot of people that wanted to come over, but they couldn't. They couldn't come. And then once the gate was shut.
Come on, Craig. People were lying from the beginning. I knew 14-year-olds on Google Plus from the beginning.
Yeah, but there weren't that. There were some that were coming over,
There were lots
but,
of them. There were 11 and 12-year-olds on Google Plus in the very
but
beginning.
not that many. Not that
Oh,
many.
there were lots of them. If they were bored, they left.
That's like telling me there aren't that many 10 and 11-year-olds
Well,
on
the
Facebook.
point is, if a few come over, and lie about their age and come over, and then none of their friends are here, then that's right. They're not going to stay. They're going to go back.
Exactly. There's no fun. There's no games. There's too many adults, and
So
you know,
the point is, Google should have opened this thing when they were ready to scale it. They should have opened it and splash opened it to everybody and let the floodgates open and let them all in if they wanted them all in. Now they got to play catch up and try to figure out a way to get them in.
Well, you know, and that goes back to the throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, which they keep seeming to do.
And,
Anyway.
and they
Okay, so should we move?
Yeah, let's move. The other big news that came out of games this week, and I find this amazing that in all of the coverage about the game companies that are leaving, this never gets mentioned. And that's that game notification, the game messages can now appear in your main stream. And this was announced earlier in the week, and nobody's covered it. It's like nobody knows that it actually exists. In fact, Google has announced it and then didn't kind of make a point about it. You know how usually when they announce new things, it gets reshared by like all of the top Google people? Nobody reshared this. So I put it in our show notes that now it's possible for you to get your game notifications, get your basically merge your game stream into your main stream. And you do this the same way you do it on just about everything else. You go to your game stream and you adjust the slider. And the slider will tell you, basically let you select how much shows up in the main stream.
I got to tell you, Alan, I think that one thing that Facebook does really well compared to Google Plus is the volume control and the relevance control. They do that very well.
You think so?
I think so because
yes.
It's too much hassle to set all that stuff up in Google Plus. Facebook just kind
I
of
disagree.
is intuitive and figures it out. Go ahead, Srik.
I disagree because what do you mean by volume control?
I mean by
You can control different types of posts.
like
The only thing I think they have better, only one thing is if you see a particular type of content published from a person, you can say, I don't want to see this kind of content or something like that. But other than that, if you are actually missing a lot of content from people who are in your friend circle because of the algorithm, right?
because they don't get the volume control right. They should know that you and I engage a lot, and then Alan and I engage a lot, and Craig Ship and Jason and everybody.
My point is, it's none of their business.
Give me a break, Sri.
Dan.
They should know that through an algorithm. I mean, I'm not saying
No, Dan. You know how they're doing it now?
How are they doing it
I
now?
can't believe we haven't talked about this before. Do you know how they're doing it now?
I don't.
You get to pay to make sure people can see you.
Yeah, but not that many people are using that.
Nobody's gonna. It's gonna be
but in
business.
fact-
But you have an
no,
option.
no. Come on. Let me
Oh, you
finish
mean on
it.
Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
those guys are whores. Screw them. I
Of
hate
course
those
they're
guys.
whores. But this has actually became an issue.
I wanna slap
George
Zuckerberg.
Takei, get this. No. This is a good one. George Takei, who has like a massive following on Facebook, mostly on the basis of reposting Reddit fun stuff, has basically told his followers that if they want to start seeing his stuff, they need to actually go to his timeline because it's not going to show up in their wall anymore. And the reason why is because he's not going to pay Facebook for this.
I mean, that's
He
just
saw- he
that's
saw
sad.
His followership drop to something like 10%, to an incredibly low amount.
Yeah.
Facebook replied to that.
Did
I
they?
don't
I haven't
think
heard that.
very
What did
many
he say?
people are paying to have their postings prioritized.
Of course not. Most people on Facebook don't even know, and I've told my friends over and over again. I did a little test on my friends, and I got about 17% of my friends actually seeing my posts. And most of them have told me over and over again they don't see all my posts. And I told them, you don't interact with me. If you don't interact with me, you're not going to see it. And that's just too much work sometimes to sit there and keep on make sure that you like a post, comment, whatever on Facebook to make sure you keep that interaction to keep seeing their posts. And even though you set that feed to see all their posts, you don't. Which I think it's actually kind of funny if you think about it. If you do now stick all your Facebook friends in an interest list, you will see more content from them instead of just your main newsfeed. Facebook is just a crazy world of mess. I don't know.
One of his fans replied to him and said that Facebook had not changed anything and that it was not possible to see everything in your feed because there's just too much content. So the reason you would see more in if you added them to a list would be the same reason if you put a few people into a small circle on Google+.
I have 200 people in my interest list. So I'm saying, I mean, it's not that, it's just how Facebook's set up. If you don't interact with a person, they don't interact with you. You're not going to see a lot of their content. It's different if you're dealing with businesses or celebrities. You put them in an interest list. Whether you like their page or not, you're going to see their posts. But on Facebook, for your average friend, you may not see Grandma Betty's, post about her great dinner on Sunday. You're not going to see John graduated from high school. I mean, unless it's one of those extra special events that Facebook does, you're not going to see that stuff.
I got to do some quick comments here that are about Alan, and I always like to give Alan his due, as you know. Let's see here. Alan is not going to be satisfied until someone gives him a holodeck from George Cozy.
No. If they gave me a holodeck, I would find problems with it.
Yeah, indeed. The next one's even better from Daft Griffiths. Alan is just being elitist now. We're on the same page, Daft.
Wait a minute. I'm being elitist by calling Google Plus elitist? Think about that one. There's a meme there. There's a meme there somewhere.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Carlos Badass. I hate Facebook's controls. I miss a lot of important things for my friend, and I have to go to a friend's profile to see what I missed. They're not there yet. Indeed, I have to do the same thing. There are friends that I want to check on, and I don't see anything, and then I'll go to their profile, and then I'll find all this stuff. And I think a lot of it is who you message back and forth. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what the algorithm
There's an
is.
easy way to deal with that. Just put those people in the close friends list and turn the notifications on. Whenever they post anything, you'll get that update.
Or just pay them to go to Google Plus.
Can't we all agree that neither one of the interfaces is great? The Google Plus interface and controls and so forth, the Facebook interface and controls, they both are kludgy, right? Can we agree on that?
Yep.
Kludgy?
Get a thumbs up on that.
Not perfect.
What's kludgy mean?
Neither one are
messy.
Are perfect.
They're messy. They're kind of
they've got foibles. They're hard
they
to
need
work
improvement.
through. Okay, so if we can agree on that, my point is that Facebook can afford to be that way because Facebook already has all the people there, and they've been there for a long time, and they've slowly but surely kind of figured a lot of this stuff out. And if they haven't, they're just, ignorance is bliss. They don't realize they haven't figured it out. And so their people are staying there. And so my point is, Google Plus has to be a lot better than Facebook. They have to get these things right in order to have a chance at pulling the people away from Facebook.
No, I hate it when Craig and I agree.
And I am not going to buy the argument that that Google Plus does not want to pull the people away from Facebook, because that's the only way they win here. Because I cannot be two places at once. Okay?
And you can only see ads on one platform. I mean, that's what it's about. Ultimately, it's about ad revenue.
Craig? You can, I mean, virtually, you can be at as many places as you want. Physically, may not.
Well, okay. I have 3 monitors. I have 2 iPads. Yes, I can monitor a lot of stuff. But I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to pick the one I really like, and I'm going to spend more time on that. I spend most of my time on Google+, a lot less time on Facebook.
Okay.
All right?
Let me ask you this.
That's a decision that I've made. Now, other people have made the decision to spend the time on Facebook. And that's what Google has got to overcome. This is not, they can't both win here. I don't buy that argument. I've heard people say that Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus are all 3 different things, and they can all 3 survive, and everything will be fine, and you know, in internet land. I'm not buying that. I think it's a fight to the death, and I think that Facebook would just as soon kill Google Plus one way or the other, and Google Plus needs to start saying, we want to kill Facebook. And that's what they got to do, and I for one will help give them the ammunition.
I completely
disagree. Got to do it.
I just don't think there's a way that Facebook is going to be able to kill. Well, Google Plus is going to be able to kill Facebook right now. Go ahead, Stuart. I didn't
even if it takes them 5 years, I'm all right with that, but not much more than 5. I don't have a lot of time.
Here's what I think. If you're using Google services, and if Google is on a one-way mission of integrating everything Google does into Google Plus, what's going to happen is, whether you really like it or not, or whether you really care about it or not, you're still going to use it. Whether you're going to use it for social networking, I don't really know, and doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, I have a lot of friends on Facebook. I spend like half an hour there a day. Sometimes it's, I mean, I'm also adding probably to that 7 hours thing what ComScore came up, because right now my Facebook is open, my Google Plus is open, my LinkedIn is open, everything is open. The point is, you make friends everywhere, right? I mean, I made a bunch of friends on Google Plus. I have a bunch of family and friends on Facebook. I have a lot of professional friends on LinkedIn. Why do I want to lose any one of them? I don't think they're going to kill each other. I think they're going to exist. Both of them is going to exist, especially because Google Plus is on a mission to just be a part of Google forever. That's a new look of Google.
What happens when Facebook starts doing more and more search?
What I think, hold on one second. What I think is Google's risk is the alliance between a company like Apple and Google services becoming less and less relevant as opposed to how it is right now. Like the previous discussion of how maps, I mean, Apple is doing its own maps, blah, blah, blah. But it is not going to be a war between social networks. That is not the big deal here. The big deal here.
Search. It's search.
Search is more than that. No. It's more than that. I think breaking it down into it's search or it's social is kind of missing the point. It's all of this big holistic thing. People aren't thinking about things in terms of how do I search for something. They're thinking in terms of how do I get an answer. And yes, search is part of that.
Alan, all I was saying is that that's the Achilles heel that Google has, is they're making their money on search. That's where they make their money. And as these other platforms start to stick their nose into that section, Apple, Facebook, maybe even Twitter, okay, that's where they're vulnerable, because right now they're sitting pretty. They've got a large portion of the search, and they haven't really been attacked yet, but they're going to be attacked.
You raised an interesting question. Does Google make their money from search, or do they make their money from websites, which you get to through search? And
that's exactly how they make their money, but there's nothing saying that Facebook can't do that for the people instead of Google.
Well, but here's the interesting thing. Facebook has been focusing on, you don't want to go to their website, you want to come to us.
Yeah, but Facebook could just as easily put the business in there. They're already working towards that. So they want to make the business part of Facebook. And if they're able to do that, then you won't have to go outside to find them.
Right.
You'll just go right to the product, good, service, whatever it is you want, right there on Facebook. And Facebook is happy as can be, and Google is left out in left field.
And that's kind of the distinction, is that Google's goal has been to create great websites that people will go to from Google. And that's the big distinction. That's kind of where Google has been, has been operating on. That's why Google, in some ways, they made Maps and released it the way they did, so that everybody could use Maps and create their own website that you go to. Facebook didn't do that. Facebook instead created a framework where people would come to them and play games on them, and people would build games that run on them. It's a different approach to doing things, and it's worked differently for either of them. And I think it's kind of a toss-up still, which one is going to be the one that wins. I know which one I hope wins. I know which one I think should win.
I still think they're totally different, Alan. I mean, let me look at my notifications right now.
Totally different.
I just, but like, I mean, as far as winning or losing, I don't think it's the kind of thing.
Let me say, there's something I like about Facebook is their messaging system.
Dan, there is no, there is no more.
I think it's a lot worse.
There is not a moat around any of these businesses. Okay, that you can see this war between Google and Apple going on right now. That's illustrating that point. When they first brought out the iPhone, there was this lovey-dovey, hugs and kisses, and we've got Maps, Google Maps in here, and so on and so forth. And now these businesses are getting so big, and they're publicly traded, and they have to keep increasing their profits, and so on and so forth. So the gloves are off. They're all going after each other's core businesses, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to get as much of that as they can, and that's.
And in the end, Craig, it's about eyeballs. It's if you're staring at my screen, you're going to see my ads, and I'm going to generate revenue. And every minute you spend, it doesn't matter what kind of site it is, whether it's a news site or a sports site or a social network. If your eyes are on that site, you're not looking at the other guy's ads.
That's
and they're
right.
not making the money.
So
and that's what it's about.
So Facebook wants you to look at them and only them. Google is going to want you to look at them and only them. Apple is going to want you to look at them and only them. And the fight is we're gonna find out who wins.
Because it's about rewarding your shareholders, and of course Facebook could use a boost there right now.
Facebook got as much money as they possibly could in that IPO. They
did, yeah. Yeah, Zuckerberg definitely sold on the right day.
What Dan said about your shareholders. There's a different. Anyway,
I was making a dig.
Let's move on.
Indeed, yeah, please.
Can I have a word on this before we move
on?
Fine,
last word, Sri.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I think in the long run, all of these guys are gonna exist. They're all gonna. I agree with Craig. They're all gonna fight against each other and try to go for each other's core business. Now, if you look at Google, we all agree that as of now, at least, the core business is Google search. But I remember what Alan said a few days ago, that Google is moving towards a more hardware-oriented company with Motorola mobility, and what I'm saying. So Google knows. I mean, with Apple Siri coming up, I think they're going to integrate Siri in MacBooks and everything else. Siri, as of now, uses Google as well. I believe search tomorrow, finding the right information tomorrow, may not be that big a business 10 years from now. And while people may not have that much good implementation as Google search and infrastructure, there will always be ways to find out information otherwise. Having said that, I disagree with Craig when it says that the core businesses of social networking between Twitter and Facebook and Google and all is going to fight against. You have no idea 1 year from now how this thing is going to evolve. What happens to Facebook or what happens to Google+. The idea that you need all those people from Facebook to come over to Google+ for Google+ to succeed, no. And Google has the money.
Well,
let me tell you something about bringing all my family here. I wouldn't want to bring my nieces and nephews over here because they can easily get spammed if they're doing public posts. I don't want that. True. I don't want that happening to my nieces and my son. I don't want that.
And they
happening.
can't get spam by doing public posts on Facebook?
They
Not
don't
as
make
much.
public posts.
It can happen
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, you don't have to make public posts here.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I know.
mean, it's a hard thing if on Google Plus, if you're trying to build up a following of people, and if you have majority of all your posts just a limited, I mean, it really it hurts you.
Well,
it's not.
Well, why would you?
thing
You don't
is-
necessarily want to build a public following here. When
Actually,
when I first joined here, I didn't think, I wasn't here to try to create a public following. I wasn't here to try to get a bunch of people. I know people, I know people who are here and who don't have a huge public following, who don't want a huge public following,
Yes, I
and don't get
understand
spammed.
Yeah.
And I think even though we say that kids below 16 should not be on this and all, I think there are a lot more kids out there on Facebook than we imagine.
I know there are. We all know there
we
are.
all know. We all know. There are
Yeah.
parents that get Facebook just for their kids so they can play Facebook games.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said before, I've advocated since July of last year that Google Plus should not only be opened up down to 13, they should find the way to make it open to even younger.
Yeah.
And I said this back in July of last year.
We have a huge porn problem.
Younger?
As
money,
no,
thank you.
Go read
There's
my
too
post
much
where I
porn.
said that.
And then
There's too much bullying
what
and
is
too
the
much
measure?
porn on Google Plus for having kids that young on here.
But Margie, we have the solutions in Google Plus to mitigate some of that. We have
What, circles?
We have those controls. We have
Circles
blocking.
don't-
We have no, they don't perfectly help, but they're not going. They're certainly not going to help on Facebook. We've got even worse controls.
It's easier on Facebook. The controls are so much easier. Like I can deal with Facebook so simply. I don't have to. I mean, I can push out something
year ago we
if I
had
want to.
problems
They
with
don't.
that.
How long? How long?
Everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a perspective. I find controls in Google Plus more easier.
How's it different?
That's
on
because
Facebook,
you have
can
a
make
very
a post.
high IQ.
You can exclude people if you want
No,
to.
I have
you can use lists and post to lists. So what is there a difference? There's no difference. I've done both. Been on Facebook for over 5 years.
There
Been
will
on Google Plus
obviously
for
be-
over
it's a
year.
10-year-old
There's no real difference between the two of them. If you know how to use the controls, and I think that's kind of the key. If you know how to use it.
Shriek, I walk new people into Google Plus almost every day because these are people I'm getting into my shows that
I love this
aren't on
topic.
Google Plus, and
Yeah.
I walk them through every day, and it is a minefield.
Are they existing Facebook users?
They're Facebook users, and
That
they're
is
just,
a big problem. That is the biggest problem. Because when you look at a new social network, you are looking for why doesn't this look like Facebook anymore?
absolutely, you're
Yeah.
right.
So,
but
that
for
is
whatever
not
the
good enough.
reasons, all I'm saying is for whatever the reasons, it's very difficult for them.
Because
And
they're
that's why
trying to look at from a Facebook angle. They're trying
Well,
to.
what are they supposed to do? It's been the biggest social network that people are accustomed to. So it is a completely different world. I remember when I first came over here. I mean, it was weird. You have no wall. You have no inbox system.
Will you believe me that? Will you believe me if I said I'm an IT guy? I've been working for 15 years in IT. When I first went into Facebook, I found it totally difficult.
Really?
Yes, there are a lot of things on Facebook that just make no sense.
Like what?
Well, like
I mean,
the
it's
fact
weird
when
to me.
you're
I was on before there was a
I
news
was
feed.
so
Margie, no. Here's my perfect example. When I post to a person's wall, I thought originally that was a private message.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Same thing.
Walls are
Same
always
thing.
public.
I thought the same.
It didn't seem like it wasn't. It seemed like it was a private message.
I thought the
And
same.
I didn't see it on their wall, but everyone else did.
Yes, that's how it works.
I thought
walls for the most part
exactly
are
the same.
public, and then but you can set your wall to extend. Start. Hold on, Shriek. You can set your
No,
wall to
I posted
but they've
something
changed-
outrageous.
They've changed the settings. Go ahead. Let me shut up.
I posted out something outrageous on my friend's wall when I first joined. I mean, I had a Facebook account since time immemorial, but when I started using it like 5 years back or something, I posted something outrageous on a friend's wall, and then he sent me a mail separately saying that, dude, don't do this to me. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So
I had to do that. To
you
family
have to
members.
understand. I design, architect, and develop applications. I figured that. Oh,
and the point is, Margie, the point is that even if Facebook is hard to use and has some issues, that is immaterial because the people are already there.
Exactly.
So obviously they're putting up with those issues, and some of them,
And they learn
ignorance
it
is
because
bliss.
there's so
They
many
don't
people
know
and
that they
friends and
don't know what
family
they're
They
that
doing.
just have the
they
numbers
learn.
on the. Simply put, they just have the numbers on their side right now.
But the point is that when they come over here, it takes me, I have to walk them through step by step how to plus one, how to reshare something, how to comment even. I had to tell somebody, I had to tell them how to find my profile. Just every little thing, it's just amazing to me that it's just not intuitive to these people. Google
It's
needs
not
to
at all.
hire,
Google Plus has never
Google
been
needs
like
to
that.
hire 50 idiots off the street. They need to just randomly walk down the street and hire 50 idiots.
How do you?
Correct.
Hey, Craig, how do you edit a comment on Facebook?
How do I do
You
what?
don't.
How
You
do you-
delete it and start over.
Right.
And you
So
can't even always delete it.
You can edit it in the first 2 seconds if you
Right.
click.
By the way,
so
you
you,
can't edit.
you're telling
Okay, whoa, okay, guys, I'm calling time on this. We're moving on to the next subject.
Okay.
Wait, I got a question.
No more waits. No more waits. You pick this up again later.
You mentioned delete. You mentioned delete. I got to ask a question. How come some of the Hangout notifications in my stream that say locked, how come I can't delete them? What's up with that?
That's a notification.
knows?
How can you
Who
delete
knows?
it?
There is so much about Google Plus that it's just like there is magic all over it. They're not telling us. Who knows why Google Plus does what it does on any given moment, and tomorrow it could change. Speaking of changes, let's move on to the next subject.
The only thing I want to add is
No, Street, there is nothing more you want to add right now.
how did a new FB user know that he cannot or can edit the? Let me ask you a simple question. Can you tell me how can you remove your default location when you post something?
Say what?
Let's say, Margie, where are you from? Margie,
Mississippi.
Mississippi, right? Whenever you post something on Facebook, it is going to show it's posted on Mississippi, right?
No.
Sometimes it screws up. It depends upon your IP address.
Right. Can you
but
change it?
You'll get it wrong. Sometimes, yes, you can change it. You can exit out when you're making a post in the publisher and put whatever city that you want to put in. And usually,
You know
the
it.
next time
How
you
many
do
people
it.
knows this? Google this.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
weird. I
I'm
know
telling
lots
you.
of crappy
I'm
stuff
telling
about
you.
Facebook. But I
I'm
don't
telling
know.
you. I'm telling you. Just Google this. You'll see hundreds of people asking the question. How do I
Really?
change my location? Yes.
Well,
go
you
Google
need to get them in touch with me. I'm the Facebook guru. I know that stuff.
That is
I'm
why
Google
I'm
Plus too, for
I've
the
seen
most part.
a ton of equally stupid questions on Google Plus.
Oh, I don't disagree. I don't.
It only takes an hour
I'm
and
just-
a half
I'm
to
just-
sit
my
there
po-
and
my
push
po-
someone.
My point
force
is,
someone through Google Plus.
my point is only one thing. Both of them have their own problems in people, laymen trying to come and use it, and then they find
Exactly.
shit. I found these problems.
But
I
Speaking
couldn't
of-
find.
Yeah, but
Speaking
but
of
the problem
equally
is
stupid problems.
the problem is Google's, because the people are already on Facebook
Right.
and they need
Google-
to get them to come here.
Right. Google has to make a better product because otherwise
better.
nobody is going to want to come up with it. There's
Google
gotta be a
needs to
compelling
much
reason.
better.
make Google Plus easier.
Okay, Dan.
I don't disagree.
I'm calling
I-
this topic.
I don't disagree, but again, I say it is not going to be a death to the finish.
Okay.
And
Fine.
they need to hire.
All right,
idiots.
real quick. Craig brings up
So
a
we
good
agree.
point, and then
Such
we'll
a
close
long
it,
thing.
Alan. We'll go to
Yeah.
your next topic, but it is difficult to bring people on here. We've all experienced that, and they should hire a room. Idiots is too strong, but regular users, and so many companies do this. Not to pick on Google at all, but so many companies don't have. When I was a programmer at Deltec Systems in McLean, they had what was called the QC department, the quality control, and it was just end users, not tech geeks at all, just regular users who would use the software before we pushed it out to the mainstream, and they would find all the bugs and all the problems with how intuitive the interface was, that sort of thing. And a lot of developing companies don't do that enough. They don't get regular, normal, non-geeks to use the software or the interface or the cloud-based system before they push it out, and they just throw it up there and see what happens and see what sticks and what doesn't, and then they end up pulling stuff. When if they did some homework ahead of time, and it's not that big a deal, like Craig said, get 20, 30, 50 people and get them to try it and have a panel that reviews the responses, and then when 30 of those 50 are happy with it, then you got a pretty solid product. But when a bunch of engineer geeks think it's good, that doesn't.
All you have to do is watch them use it. That's all you have to do is have a camera watching them use it. You'll see where they stumble.
They should work on. I mean, they should do it, Craig. They should do it like focus groups, like political campaigns do, right?
Groups. They do this.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough. Then they need to hire more idiots.
I mean, whatever focus groups they used for some of their previous endeavors in social were not effective, I would say.
They brag about these MIT graduates and all these people they hire and all. What they should do is they should brag about, you think you've got idiots, I've got real idiots over here. That's what they should have. Because if it can get past the idiots, it can get past anybody.
Okay.
I think we need to move with the cheese now, right?
Speaking of real idiots, here's another brilliant announcement from Google this week, about a way to link your page, your page on Google Plus to your website. And they've now made it so that if you go to your page, you look at the website, there's a button that says link to. If you go to your page, there's a button that says link to your website. And what this does, it gives you some instructions about what you need to put on your website in order for them to link your website and your page and to get your page verified. Now, this would be great if it wasn't for the fact that they've been trying this for 6 months and they've apparently been completely unable to do it. So now they've introduced yet another new way to do this. So it kind of boggles my mind that once again they're trying something that they've been trying for 6 months. They haven't succeeded, so they're, trying again without really doing anything different.
Are you talking about this gets us the verified check mark? Is that what you're
Yes.
talking about?
This is supposedly a new way to get a verified check mark on your Google Plus page.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
And I tried it this afternoon, and it basically gives you a link that you need to put on your website that says, follow me on Google Plus, and it links back to your page, which is different than the old Google Plus badge, which essentially lets you follow them directly from your page. The two of them seem different and incompatible, and this one looks like it was a kludge thrown together in about 30 minutes by some engineer as a 20% project.
And where did you find this?
I have the link to it once again on our show notes. It was announced by, I don't remember who, but I'm pretty sure Vic reshared it.
Did you reshare it?
I probably did not reshare it.
Okay.
But I have put it in our show notes. And if necessary, after the show, I will go click on it and reshare it and ridicule it. But
how come you're not verified then?
Because it didn't work.
Because it's not for verifying people. And I'd like to know why I'm not verified, but that's another story. Because this is for pages, not for people.
Oh, well, that's no good then. We want it for people.
Yeah, we'd like to be we've been here long enough. We should be able to be verified.
Well, but here's the thing.
I want to know if it's the real Sheila
People
Dubois.
don't have web pages. That people don't have websites, rather.
No.
See, I have a Google site, which the URL craigship.com is pointed to, right? So I would think that I could get at least verified as craigship.com. I'd settle for that.
So do you also have a page that says that's for craigship.com?
Yeah, craigship.com. No, it's pointed to a Google site. That's craigship.com.
Okay.
But I mean, I would think that would be enough.
But here's the thing. Google has this weird dichotomy between pages and people. So, for example, they think that people use Blogger, but companies use pages. Websites have pages. There's this really weird dichotomy that they've got here for something that superficially seems very similar.
Okay, Daft Griffiths has a couple comments. I get spammed constantly on Facebook, whereas I never get spammed here on Google+. And I have 1,400 more people who circle me than I have friends on Facebook. And then another comment from him, of course, his best comment was that Alan is elitist. But another good comment here, I think Nintendo are the most famous company nowadays to use non-geeks, non-gamers, in fact, to QC their products. So there.
And we see just how well they're doing in the marketplace.
Indeed, they're doing almost as well as Zynga. I'm just kidding. And Alan keeps going on and off. I think it's his cats who are tripping over his cords.
What are you talking about? Nintendo is doing well. They have the best-selling console, and they.
I thought their console was down to number 3.
Well, okay, I haven't looked in a long time. But,
Which, in a 3-company race.
It's the best of. It's in the top 3, though, Alan.
Yeah.
We should, you know. They're in the top 3.
All I know is that, and this is forever, the consoles are profitable from day one, which Microsoft and Sony are not. So I don't know.
This is true. But the
Whatever.
Xbox 360 is turning a massive profit for Microsoft these days. And Xbox Live is turning a massive profit.
I
for Microsoft
almost
these
bought one today. I was on Amazon. I had my finger on the buy, and I almost bought one.
It's because of your all your media profits, Craig.
No, I was in a hangout with Eric Rice, and somebody else was talking about what the best console was to get, and they were going on and on about it, and then I got sucked into it. And I've never done any gaming. I've never even tried it. So I was gonna do it and try it, but
I see you're kind of tired looking, and you're actually sitting down for a change. I think you're ready for some games. You're tired of working all the time. You know, instead of building up your legacy media empire, you should play some games and let the competition encroach on your profits.
I wasn't going to announce it in this hangout. I was holding off. But
I sense a URL coming up. Go ahead, Craig.
When Facebook, Google, Apple, and Twitter all annihilate themselves, that's when the Area Guides network is going to come up out of the ashes and take over all of it. And we're going to be the ones that really do no evil. That's my prediction for the way this is all going to shake down.
So if Warren Buffett calls you and wants to buy your legacy media empire, you'll entertain an offer.
There's no truth to the rumor that his organizations have been in touch with us.
At least you're not ready to confirm that.
That's right.
Okay.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Indeed. Yeah, if he wants to drop a couple mil on my newspaper empire, I will entertain the option. Alan, are there any other topics? Or have we reached the end of the internet? We've gone from a 9-year-old blogger in Scotland to the Oracle of Omaha, who's almost a centurion.
We do have an interesting new change to a Hangout app that I wanted to make sure people were aware of. I think all of us have seen and played with the YouTube app inside a Hangout.
Yep.
Apparently, the YouTube people have actually talked to the Hangout people. Shocking that they talk to each other these days. And they have vastly improved that app. So that now you're not just able to share a video, but you can share playlists and queue up videos for the future and essentially have synchronized video going on amongst all the participants. If Jason was here, this is something that I know he was incredibly interested in.
But you can't do on air still, right?
You can, well, you can do it on air, but the on-air stream won't see it.
Well, that's no good.
You know, it doesn't mean
Well,
you
what
can't do
good
it.
is that?
It means that you know, everyone else can watch, you know, Oleg dancing to some YouTube video, but not understand what, you know, not hear what he's dancing to.
And so what is the,
so this is a great generator for new comedic routines, basically.
what does the audience see? They just see whoever the broadcaster has blue boxed?
Yes, or whoever is picked automatically. Correct.
Are there any rumors that they're going to change that and make it available on air?
It has been just the problem is in general, apps that are running don't get shown on air, and it's not just the YouTube app; it's any app doesn't show on air.
Yeah, but if we share our screen, that shows.
That's correct.
Yes, but that's
you
different
notice
than
is not an
sharing
app.
Yeah.
Screen share isn't an app; it's a specialized button.
Okay.
But the general answer is yes, they are working on ways that the recorder will be able to interact with the apps more, but there are a lot of technical issues involved in it.
Okay.
So don't expect it in 2 weeks.
What about mobile?
Mobile, I'm willing to bet they'll have that working before we get this other feature. But
You think a
You're still
month?
wor- what
You
was
think
that?
sometime this summer? You think for mobile?
Your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. My read of the Google people is that it's a high priority for them.
Couple comments from the web. Daft Griffiths to Craig Ship. I think if Samsung drops Android in favor of their own proprietary OS, then with their grasp of mobile, they will be the company who will be at the forefront when the social sites burn out. On YouTube, it's on Google Plus. On YouTube Live, 360 is doing great, but not only because of gaming. And then a little back and forth between Wallace and Allen. And then Shade SWV, something else that I've seen on Facebook is people thinking a status update field was a search field. That's funny when that can be that can yield interesting and oftentimes humorous and occasionally devastating results. Any just Google Facebook fail and you'll see what I'm talking about. Any final topics, Alan, before we do a little round robin with a final thought from everyone?
No, let's go with the wrap up.
Okay, let's. I'll finish with you, Alan. So let me start. I guess Sariq is indisposed, so if he pops in again before we're done, then we will get back to him. But Sheila, any final thoughts this week? How was your Google Plus week?
My Google Plus week has been pretty good.
What do you think of the immigration thing?
News. What's that?
What do you think of the immigration thing?
I didn't follow
The news today that the Obama administration is going to, if you were 30 or under, that would be Sariq, I guess, and you came here, as a quote unquote illegal immigrant, that would not be Sariq. He came here illegally. I'm just picking on Sariq, but that you can. That they won't deport you if they catch you, and they'll actually issue you a work permit. Sort of like if you bring, if someone came in and brought a toddler here, a 3-year-old, obviously the kid didn't voluntarily come across illegally, and what do you do in that situation? He's been here, he's 17 now or 25, and he's been here 15 years, 20 years. So what they're going to do is basically sort of do the DREAM Act, and I'm curious, because you're in Utah, and pretty conservative area. I'm curious if, I guess you hadn't heard about this yet, but it'll be on the news tomorrow. It happened today. So anyway, I'm sure Margie will weigh in on this in a moment. But what was the most interesting that happened locally or whatever in your neck of the woods today?
We went fishing and caught 11 fish. How about that?
You caught some fish?
Yeah, that's news in my world.
What kind of fish did you get?
Rainbow trout.
Oh boy.
Awesome.
11 of them. They broke their record.
Now they're safe to eat, right? It's not like here in the Shenandoah River. It's beautiful country where Sariq just visited. But there's a lot of mercury in the water, so you can't eat the fish. You can just catch them and release.
Yeah, we don't have that problem.
Okay, awesome. Everything's cleaner in Utah.
No, I don't know, but
awesome. Good for you. Margie, how did your week go?
Good week.
Good week? What do you think
That's
about that
nice.
immigration thing that came out today?
I saw a little bit about it. I didn't get a chance to read up on it that much. I saw it right before I actually jumped in here. So,
Dan,
I don't know.
can I? I'm sorry, Margie. You didn't ask me, so I'm just asking now. I mean, to Dan.
Go ahead, Sariq.
Well, it is a political stunt. It's an election year for sure.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
Yes, but
And it's interesting that Marco Rubio supports it, and he is a strong contender to be Mitt Romney's running mate. So it may be a non-issue. And it's huge. It's huge for the Hispanic vote, big time. It's clearly an election
have a similar
thing.
plan?
Huh?
Didn't McCain have a similar plan?
I don't remember, to be honest. I mean,
You can Google it. There are other Republicans who had a similar plan. I mean, this is a continuing problem.
I
You have
prefer
to find-
Bing. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so, I'm like, who is Bing? Anyway, so what
It's
I'm
a
saying
search
is,
engine.
the timing of it, yes, it is an electoral issue. It is whatever. But I think in the long run, if somebody is here when they were a kid, excuse, not an adult, and then if they had a good life, they studied here, they served in the army, blah blah blah, whatever. I mean, you have to give them a chance. I'm not saying they should get an accelerated chance to be a citizen or something. These people make money. These people do jobs, and if they can pay taxes, well and good. How long are you gonna deport? How many million people are there? I don't know. Where are you gonna deport them? People who grew up their entire life here, more or less. So
really, they're more American than they are their native country. I mean, if you came here when you were 3 years old, and you're 25, and you've been here for 22 years, if they dropped you back in Mexico or El Salvador or wherever, you wouldn't know what to do any more than you or I would.
Exactly. So while what I disagree about that is, yes, it's a political stunt, but whether as a policy it's a good thing or not, if it's a controlled, very specific criteria, and if it's not going to be expanded, because it kind of hampers people like me who came to this country legally to work or whatever, and then we are kept in longer queues to be a legalized permanent resident. You know, so I from that sense, I think it's bad, but I should be one of the persons who thinks that, oh, I have to wait 10 years to get a green card if I'm from India or China, and I have to get another 5 years to get a citizenship, and I came here legally. I should be really angry about it, but I'm not, because I think people who grew up here for 20 years, even if their parents were illegal, I think it's okay if they were actually doing good here.
The problem is, and we should move on. I want to go to Leah next. The problem is that people who are a close geographic proximity have an advantage. Someone who's in Europe or Asia or wherever, they have to follow the rules. They can't just easily come across the border, whereas someone south of us can easily do it, or north of us can easily do it. And because because we voluntarily choose to not enforce the border and allow them to come over, which we've been done for decades, because it's such a hot political issue. I mean, we could put a person on the moon, but we can't build a fence. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
Well, they let them come in because they want the cheap labor.
They want the cheap labor, and that's a legitimate concern, Craig. I mean, that, you know, and we all, I mean, eat at Mexican restaurants, and there's no visa for an unskilled, non-English speaking laborer. So obviously there's tons of illegals there, and there's a restaurant here in town that I love and eat there, but I assume they're all illegal except the owner, and the cops will sit in the parking lot and run radar and give you tickets for speeding, and then go in and eat lunch there, knowing that everyone's illegal. So it's crazy, and there could be like terrorists bringing stuff or drug dealers bringing stuff because the border's just easily crossable, but it's just not fair to folks in India or China or Europe who want to come here legally, and they can't because they have to go through the official channels because there's so many coming across easily and illegally. So I wish they would just make it really easy to come here legally, and like, I mean, you know, a 1 week process or a phone call and a background check or whatever. If you can show that there's jobs that need to be filled and you can't fill them with local talent and you want to get people, that's a big problem in Silicon Valley where they can't get enough people. I've had to outsource overseas because I can't find local people to do a job. So it's frustrating, but then you can easily stock a restaurant with workers from south of the border because they can just come across. So it's a crazy system. So, I mean, I see, but again, the end result is from decades ago, and it's still going on. What do you do with someone who's been here for 20 years and left their native country when they were 3, and they didn't voluntarily come here? They were held, you know, as a baby. You're going to pull them and send them back to a country they don't know, or what do you do? You know, so I could see the logic in it. Leah, how was your week? Did you have a good Google Plus week?
Yeah, it was a pretty good week. Oddly enough, we've got immigration issues over here this week because the UK are cracking down on family migration to try and cut the net migration numbers. So that's an interesting coincidence.
Can't all the former colonies freely come back and forth still?
No.
Commonwealth.
No.
Just the EU. EU has free movement.
Isn't it ironic that Britain, who once conquered the entire world, now has problems people going to UK?
Yeah.
That's the reason you speak English, right? That's the reason that.
I don't really care a damn because
No, but that's
Chinese
the
are doing
reason
very
that
well.
in England they have
they
a
speak
lot of
only
British
Chinese.
culture.
Oh.
In India they have a lot of British culture, like they all drink tea from England, and in England, Indian food is like as prevalent as Chinese restaurants are here in America. There's a huge cultural crossover because they were a British colony. But I thought that they could freely.
No. I need a what's that? Schenkel visa? I don't know.
What about Pakistan? Same deal.
Everybody.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought that they could still come.
Other than the Western countries, maybe NATO. I'm not sure. I think you need any other country to go to UK or any of the European Union countries. You need. I believe the visa name is Schenkel visa. I'm not sure. Having said that, my point was not about English language or anything. I've been going through this UK's immigration issues right now. Recently, they raised or they set a particular amount of money, which the main income maker in the family should make to bring the spouse to the country. I mean, before there was, it's like, let's say I'm an immigrant here. I make $50,000. I need to make $65,000. It's not up to me now to decide how I spend my $50,000 or $55,000 if I need to bring my spouse along. That is total bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that it is, again, I'm saying it's so ironic, that a country like UK feels bad about it. Do you think the rest of the world has forgiven UK? I doubt it.
All right, we'll see. All right, Craig, how was your Google Plus week?
Good, good. We did another show. What was it? This morning. Yeah, another the Frederick Week show, frederickweek.com, and you can find all the shows. Go to that lower that I have there, hangout10.com. We even have a link to your shows on there. So we have a link to a bunch of shows that are recorded in Google Plus Hangouts. And anybody else that has a show that they do on a regular basis, if they want to send me the link, I'll add it on there. So, yeah, things are moving along, and we'll have the next Pageant Live show on Monday night at 8. That'll be our next show. So you'll get an invite, Dan. I hope you can stop in and say hi, like you did the other day.
Yeah, they were awesome. They were fun.
It's getting better all the time. Every week the show's getting better. So I told them that's what we shoot for, is a better show every week, and we're going the right direction.
Yeah, if you look at like the first couple of Google Plus weeks and you look at now, it's a bit of a change. So as long as you're going.
Well, that's because I'm on now.
Indeed, yeah. Once Alan came, it basically was kind of a technological revolution.
There you go.
But good for you. So hangout10.com. and craigship.com and areaguides.com and frederick.com and I'm not a media company.com.
Dominantmedia.com.
Legacymedia.com.
No, we don't have that one. We just have dominantmedia.com.
Indeed. Anthony Clouser, how was your Google Plus week?
It was good. I was going to talk about something for the next 45 minutes, but I dominate the show all the time, so I thought I'd lay off.
We love Anthony. Go ahead. What was the most interesting that happened, or what do you want to talk about, Anthony? Go ahead. This is your moment to shine.
I just briefly was going to say how Rochester hosted the LPGA Championship last week, and in 3 weeks, Rochester is hosting the PGA Championship. So I thought that was interesting.
Is Kodak a sponsor?
Wegmans was the sponsor of the LPGA. I don't think the PGA one has a name sponsor. So.
I think Kodak is now sponsoring the Little League team, not the PGA. But they did we find out, were they the ones who made these giant telescopes that the government in all of its frugalness just had like 2 Hubble telescopes sitting around in the closet and just gave to NASA on a whim? I mean, that's an insane story. It's wonderful, but my God, the money they must spend, the telescopes and things that we don't even know about.
I don't think any specific company was named in like any of the components that were used in the satellite. The satellite. But obviously, these satellites have components from so many different companies. It's crazy stuff.
I mean, the fact that it was in Rochester and Kodak's in Rochester, and we're thinking lenses and cameras and.
I mean,
I
I'm
would
guessing.
be shocked to hear that the government would waste money.
Obviously, there's a lot of companies in Rochester. Well, maybe not so obviously, but there's a lot of different companies, at least 2 anyways, that could have had major components in that.
What's the other one? It's Kodak, and what's the other one in your town?
Corning.
Corning.
Glass company. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. All right, and we end up at Alan Furstenberg, ironically, who first joined one of my early hangouts because he was really angry at me, and still joins for the same reason today. Alan, it's always a pleasure. I'm glad you were able to hang out with us for so long tonight.
To make the last part of it this evening.
So what are your final thoughts, and what was really interesting that stood out on Google Plus this week?
Well, it was a really good Google Plus week for me. Let me turn this around, Dan. Do you know what's going on in 2 weeks?
I don't know. Daria Musk is maybe on the show. I'm not sure what.
What's the big thing happening in 2 weeks?
Approaching July 4th, but that's a Wednesday, I think. I don't know. Do tell, Alan.
Do tell.
The intrigue is killing me.
In 2 weeks, we are going to be celebrating Google Plus's first birthday.
Awesome. And Google Plus Week's first birthday comes very shortly after.
That's true. But Google is essentially throwing a big birthday party for Google Plus. And this is at their Google I/O Developers Conference out in San Francisco, the 27th through the 29th. And the tickets for this sold out in about 20 minutes when they opened it up a few months ago. And I got incredibly lucky this week and learned that I was able to get an opening to it. So I am going to be in San Francisco at the Google I/O Developers Conference in 2 weeks. The show will just be wrapping up when Google Plus Week goes on the air, and I hope to be able to broadcast a summary of all of the exciting news that we learned from it on the show. And during the conference, I hope to be doing a few live hangouts on air to be reporting on what's going on. So 2 weeks is going to be big stuff for Google going on, and I hope you'll all be able to hear it right here.
I'm totally imagining like that disastrous Apple thing where there were hundreds of virtual networks going on in the room, and Steve Jobs couldn't get any network connectivity. I'm imagining a similar scenario when you're trying to like join us on Google Plus Week, and it looks like a Star Trek when they're teleporting in and out.
But my flight leaves fairly late, so I'm hoping that if I'm not able to get on from the Moscone Center itself, that I'll be able to get on from the airport a few hours later.
That's awesome. Good for you. Yeah, that's definitely going to be the place to be. So that's very exciting. Awesome.
And you'll probably have something taped under your chair, right?
In terms of,
if you're going to be at the keynote.
I will be at the keynote.
They usually have something taped under the chair.
They usually have a lot of good stuff.
Like a tablet or a Galaxy 3 or something.
A picture of Stephen Colbert, maybe.
No, they usually have something pretty good.
The past,
maybe you'll get a goodie.
In the past, the goodie bags have been incredibly good. I have heard of people who have paid for their trip to the developers conference by selling the stuff from the goodie bag.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, we will see what actually comes out of this. But I'm there to meet some great people, to learn a lot about what Google is doing. I'm certainly not going to turn down any great hardware from them, but there's a lot of other good reasons to go as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so very much. It's been a wonderful Google Plus week, and we do this every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, USA time, and that's either midnight or 1 a.m.
USA time?
Well, Eastern USA.
As opposed to Eastern Australia, I think he's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a couple days ahead of us with their crazy schedule. And Guam, who knows? I mean, But we mainlanders, switch our times every 6 months. So, but anyway, thank you all for watching and your comments and your questions and all that good stuff. And the panel, as always, was awesome. And I learned a lot, and that's what I like to do on this show, and that's why we do it. So thank you all very much for watching, and I wish all of you a wonderful, wonderful Google Plus week. Thanks.